F.E.A.R, an acronym for First Encounter Assault Recon. F.E.A.R was developed by Monolith Productions. Initially, F.E.A.R was released on PC only. It came out on October the 18th, 2005. 2 console ports were later developed. Those ports were handled by Day One Studios. The Xbox version was released on October the 31st, 2006. The PlayStation version was released on April the 20th, 2007. Vivendi Universal Games published the game. F.E.A.R was developed using the Lithtech Jupiter Extended Engine, which is Monolith Productions' in-house engine. Games released prior to F.E.A.R that used the same engine are Blood 2, The Chosen, No One Lives Forever, Aliens vs Predator 2, and Medal of Honor Pacific Assault. Games released after F.E.A.R that use the same engine are Condemned Criminal Origins, F.E.A.R 2 Project Origin, Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor, and Middle-earth Shadow of War. There were primarily 2 inspirations for the game. The first inspiration was Japanese horror movies such as The Ring, The Grudge, and Dark Water. The second inspiration were highly intense action movies using slow motion effects such as Hard Boiled and The Matrix. F.E.A.R was a commercial success. When the PlayStation version launched, the game had already sold 2 million copies. In North America, the PlayStation version sold 45,000 copies in the first month. When the game was released in 2005, these were the best-selling competitors of that year. F.E.A.R received an M rating for blood and gore, intense violence, and strong language. In this review, I used the Steam version, which is version 1.08 Retail. The game is set in the year 2025 in the fictional city of Fairport. You play as the Point Man, a newly assigned sergeant to the F.E.A.R unit. The F.E.A.R unit was founded to combat paranormal threats to national security. In the opening cutscene, we see Paxton Fettel going rogue inside a facility owned by the Armacam Technology Corporation, also known as the ATC. The ATC proclaims to be an aerospace research company, but they do other shady experiments hidden from the public. The ATC was trying to develop a unit of telepathically controlled clone soldiers known as replicas, and Fettel was supposed to be their commander. Now that Fettel has gone rogue, he utilizes his telepathic ability to control the replicas for his own nefarious purposes.
Yes.
Sorry to wake you, Senator. It's about Origin.
What happened?
There was an uprising. F.E.A.R has taken command of the prototypes.
My God.
We can still resolve this discreetly, but we have to move fast.
Oh, all right. Let me make a few calls.
This wacko's name is Paxton Fettel. He's the key. If we contain him, we contain the situation.
Fucker's got an appetite.
I think he has an agenda. It's not just recreational. He's getting something out of it.
Essential vitamins and nutrients?
What's his story?
Property of Armacam Technology Corporation. They're working on a military contract to develop an army of clones that respond to a psychic commander. Top secret, of course. Fettel is one of the commanders.
You gotta be fucking kidding me. This is why nobody takes us seriously. Military clones?
A full battalion of them. Highly trained and heavily armed.
A battalion? What are we supposed to do against 1,000 super soldiers?
Like I said, we put Fettel down and it's over. Fortunately, the whole point of the program is to give commanders first-hand knowledge of the battlefield without putting them in danger. That means we should be able to corner the bastard without having to wade through all those soldiers.
How do we find him?
Armacam implanted a transmitter in his head. Should lead us right to him.
That's awfully convenient.
Assuming it does what it's supposed to. What about you, buddy? Ready to go to work?
You're putting him in the field? Are you crazy? He just transferred in a week ago.
You've seen his training results. His reflexes are totally off the charts. I think he can handle himself.
Whatever, man. It's your call.
Goddamn right it is.
The F.E.A.R unit is called in to put a stop to Fettel by killing him. The F.E.A.R unit consists of the point man, Lieutenant Spencer Jankowski, Chief Technology Officer Jin Sun Kwon, and Team Coordinator Rodney Betters. As soon as the mission starts, you start having hallucinations. These hallucinations appear often and they allude to certain story-related events. Using the signal from the transmitter in Fettel's head, the F.E.A.R unit tracks him down. Fettel manages to escape by knocking the point man out. After the point man wakes up, the signal is lost and the mission status changes. Instead of going after Fettel, the F.E.A.R unit is sent to deal with a squadron of replicas at the harbor.
The dead man's name was Charles Haberger. I remember him. But are the memories mine or hers? It makes no difference. He deserved to die. They all deserve to die.
Come in. Over. What's going on? I've lost Fettel's signal. Comcast, this is Den Mother. I hope you aren't busy. We've got a situation down at the harbor. What kind of situation? We located those soldiers you were looking for, but we're under orders not to engage until you guys reconnoiter. Understood. I've got two birds en route to your position. You should have a visual shortly. We'll be ready.
These men are from F.E.A.R. They are special attachments to our unit for the duration of this op. They will be on point. Their mission is to assess the nature of the threat. Our job is to keep them alive. Do not engage the enemy. Remember that we are not dealing with ordinary bad guys. Team 1 will move in from the southwest. Team 2 will approach from the north. Once our recon is complete, we'll rendezvous and wait for further orders. Okay, let's saddle up.
This is Little Bird. We're on the ground.
Copy that. Proceed to first objective.
Since you're on point, see if you can get this gate open. I'd send one of my boys, but I think we need a specialist for this one.
Clearly, the F.E.A.R unit is not a respected unit within the military. After opening the gate, your squad is attacked by a little girl. The mission status changes, and now you're supposed to reunite with Jankowski's squad instead. After making it through a number of warehouses and replica squads, you encounter the little girl, and you're thrown through a window. You survive the attack, and Fettel's signal is picked up again. You start pursuing him. During the pursuit, it is revealed over the radio that the replicas are attacking the ATC headquarters.
He's alive.
Should I call in a medevac?
He doesn't appear to be injured, although I don't know how he survived.
Worry about that later. I'm reading Fettel's transmitter near that position. We gotta take that fucker out, fast. Jen, keep looking for Jankowski. I'm still reading his life signs.
You can't send him in alone, that's crazy.
He can take care of himself. Now move! Tomcat, looks like I'm not gonna be able to send you any reinforcements for a while. My helos just got diverted to Armacam headquarters. Something big is going on. No shit. My people are right in the middle of it. I hear you. I wish I was calling the shots. Is it the same bad guys? Looks that way. I'm a little short on details. I guess this ain't a covert op anymore.
After progressing further, the F.E.A.R unit is unable to locate Jankowski and considers him missing in action.
Jen, any word on Jankowski?
No, but I found some human remains. Impossible to ID without lab work.
That can't be him. His life signs are a little unusual, but he's definitely alive. He's gotta be around there somewhere.
I'll keep looking.
After gunning down more replica squadrons, they go into a full-scale retreat. Instead, they start focusing their efforts towards the ATC headquarters.
Fall back! Shit, looks like these fuckers are pulling out. I'm seeing a substantial mobilization on the satellite.
Later on, you see a hallucination of Fettel interrogating a dock worker.
Where is Alma?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Some secrets get buried deeper than others, but I know where to dig.
No, wait, you've got the wrong guy.
Hush now, Mr. Moody. The time for talk is done.
Please, no!
A while later, you find the dock worker. The mutilated worker mentions Alma and Origin. Alma is the first name of the little girl that you keep seeing. Origin is alluding to Project Origin, which is the name of an experiment carried out by the ATC. We'll get to that later.
Alma. If Fettel finds her. Origin.
What the hell are you talking about? Who's Alma and what's Origin? All right, buddy, get moving. Fettel's gotta be close.
While progressing further, you overhear a conversation between the Delta Force commander and Batters. They both agree to have the F.E.A.R unit assist the Delta Force in repelling the replicas from the ATC headquarters.
Tomcat, this is Den Mother. I know you guys are hurting, but we could really use your help with this Armacam situation. I just lost contact with my recon team, and the brass wants me to send in more men, which I'm reluctant to do until I know what we're dealing with in there. My orders are to secure this guy, Fettel. Getting rid of him will break his telepathic link to the soldiers. Once they no longer have an objective, they should shut down. That sure would be nice. Tell you what, can you spare a chopper? We're seeing what looks like a full-scale withdrawal. My gut tells me Fettel's on his way to Armacam, so maybe we can help each other out. Can do.
A while later, Better loses Jankowski's signal. He orders Jin to help out with the ATC headquarters situation.
I just lost Jankowski's signal.
Maybe his gear got damaged.
Maybe.
Fire and rescue guys are here. Once they've got the fire under control, we can check the rubble.
Let them handle it. I need you on standby to head inside Armacam as soon as the site is secure.
Roger.
Later on, you overhear Batters talking to the Delta Force helicopter pilot. They mention that there is a good landing zone close to you. The problem is that there is an enemy gunship at the landing zone. You clear out the landing zone and you're picked up by the Delta Force pilot. You're then flown to the ATC headquarters.
Tomcat, this is Dose 7. I heard somebody needed a ride. Got an HLZ for me yet? I'm showing a decent-sized yard just ahead of my point man's current position. Only problem is there's an enemy gunship sitting there at the moment. I'll keep you advised. Roger. Looks like the HLZ is clear. Copy, I'm on approach. Keep your eyes open for that Black Hawk. Good. Head to ATC headquarters and find Fettel. Mother, what can you tell us about your recon team?
We were monitoring them on the security network when we lost contact. Now the entire system is offline.
Any news on the bad guys?
We know they hit the main building shortly before 5 p.m. No estimate on enemy strength, but we should assume it's a sizable force.
Hostages?
Undetermined.
There's no demand?
Not as far as I know. Dust 7 on final. Copy, Dust 7. Do you have a visual?
Roger that.
Man, I live for this shit. Keep kicking your pants. Get two in now. Repeat. LZ is hot.
While you're clearing out the rooftop of replicas, Betters picks up Jankowski's signal again.
Still no word on Jankowski. It's like he just vanished. The weird thing is that the bodies of the Delta team he was with are all accounted for. What the hell? I'm picking up Jankowski in that general area. How the fuck did he get all the way here?
After you've cleared the rooftop of replicas, you jump through a skylight to get into the ATC headquarters. While inside, Betters orders you to find the server hub.
The ATC network is offline. I need you to find the server hub and reset it so I can get into the system. It should give us a better idea of what's going on in there.
While searching for the server hub, you come across an interesting character.
Don't shoot! My name is Norton Mapes. I'm an engineer.
Shit, it's a civilian. Give him a comlink.
Hello? Who are you people?
The good guys. Are you alright?
Oh, sure. I'm having a hell of a time.
You said you're an engineer? Can you help me get into the network?
What am I, an IS lackey? Tell you what, you disable the local security system, and I'll see what I can do about the server.
I can disable it remotely once I'm logged in.
No, you can't. It's on a separate network. It's back that way.
Why do you want us to bring down the security system anyway?
Never mind why. You want my help, that's the price. I'll just wait here.
You're now tasked with disabling the local security system, which you eventually do. After the security system has been disabled, Mapes stops responding. You're once again tasked by Betters to find the server hub.
That should do it. Mr. Mapes, do you copy? Mr. Mapes! Where is that idiot? Fuck it, we'll just have to do this the hard way. Okay, find that server and reboot it.
Right before reaching the server hub, you overhear Jin arriving at the ATC headquarters. After that, you reboot the server, which gives Betters access to the security cameras.
This is Jin. We're on the roof, heading inside.
Copy. Proceed to rendezvous. Okay, I'm showing that the network has been rebooted. Good job. That Mapes guy was right about security being on a separate network. I can monitor the camera feed, but I don't have any direct access to the system.
Later on, you're informed by Betters that you're close to the Delta team's last known location. You're then tasked with securing that area and told to wait for Jin to arrive.
You're heading toward the last known location of that Delta team. Secure the site and wait for Jin.
While walking through an area under construction, Fettel appears and provides some context about Alma and his future plan.
You've seen her, haven't you? She is the original.
I just picked up Fettel's transmitter somewhere ahead of you. Be careful.
I was made from her, and I was born from her. We are separate, but we are one. She is a prisoner, floating in darkness, like the unborn in the womb. Soon I will find her, and I will set her free.
Shit, I lost him again. Fuck!
You eventually reach the Delta team's location and meet up with Jin.
My God.
What do you think, Jen?
There was a lot of anger in this room.
That's great. Got anything useful to add?
I don't see any bullet holes. There's no brass lying around either. These guys didn't fire a shot.
Then what killed them?
I don't know.
Well, figure it out. All right, buddy, get moving. Battle's gotta be close.
I'm not even sure where to start. Almost complete liquefaction.
Watch your back.
Now you continue to pursue Fettel. After eliminating groups of replicas, you come across an ATC employee being interrogated.
Finally! Can you do something about these bombs?
All right, another civilian. Den Mother, we've located a hostage. Sounds like he's wired up with explosives.
Roger, I'll send somebody to help out.
Give him a comm link.
Hello? You guys special forces or something?
That's right. Just sit tight, Mr.
Bishop. Aldous Bishop.
Demo team's on its way.
Okay, buddy. There's some elevators near your position. Secure the area and escort the team back to Bishop.
You now have to clear out the elevators of replicas. While doing that, you encounter Holiday, a Delta Force sergeant. Holiday partook in the previous mission at the harbor. You then escort Holiday to Bishop. While Holiday is defusing the bomb on Bishop, a fire alarm is triggered. This forces you to turn off the alarm in order to make the elevators work again.
Hold your fire. Hey, good to see you again. Any way to get these gates open?
Unfortunately, no.
Then I guess we're gonna have to improvise.
By yourself? What makes you stayed alive this long?
Stand back. Here goes. We're through.
You the bomb expert?
That's right. Don't worry, you'll be fine.
Just get this shit off me. Please.
Whoever rigged this is definitely a pro.
Is that supposed to make me feel better?
He may be a pro, but I'm a master. A fire alarm.
It was triggered at a security office on that floor. You'll need to shut it off to get the elevators back online.
While heading towards the security office, Bishop mentions Harlan and Alice Wade. Harlan Wade is an ATC scientist who initiated and eventually shut down Project Origin. Alice Wade is his daughter, and she is also an ATC employee.
Mr. Bishop, do you have any idea why you were taken hostage?
They were asking about Harlan Wade. Me and his daughter Alice are on the same task force.
What kind of task force?
We're working on a study on the Auburn district over the past 25 years. Nobody told us what it's for.
Where's his daughter now?
Her office is in the executive building, on the 6th floor.
After disabling the fire alarm, you have an encounter with Alma. Disabling the fire alarm causes all the security gates to lock themselves. This separates you from Holiday and Bishop. You now have to find a different way to the roof.
Great. The elevators are working again, but now the security gates are all shutting. You're gonna have to find another way to the roof. Holiday, can you guys escort Mr. Bishop?
We'll take good care of him.
While making your way to the roof, you overhear conversations about Jin and Jankowski. You also hear that Holiday and Bishop successfully made it to the roof.
Betters, I'm pretty much done here.
Any theories?
I'm gonna need to do some lab work.
Alright, head back to the roof and sit tight. Maybe a while before we can get a ride out of there for you.
Understood.
Fire and rescue's giving up on Jankowski. I'm hoping it just banged his head really hard and he's wandering around the harbor with amnesia. We're on the roof. Good. How you holding up, Mr. Bishop?
Looking forward to getting the hell out of here.
Bet you are.
After finally making it to the roof, Holiday and Bishop are attacked by ATC security, and Bishop is killed. Holiday speculates that the ATC killed Bishop in order to prevent him from leaking any information.
We're taking fire! Get us the hell out of here! What's happening? Bishop's down! Repeat, Bishop's down! That was ATC security. Are you sure? Oh yeah, I'm sure. Friendly fire? Didn't feel very friendly to me. I think that they were deliberately targeting Bishop. What the fuck is ATC doing? Guess they didn't trust him to keep his mouth shut about something. God, I hope you're wrong. I'll look into it.
Now you have to fight against the ATC security. After killing a squad of ATC security, you overhear the ATC radio chatter. They mention that they're looking for Alice Wade and Ian Hives. Ian Hives is an ATC employee who worked on Project Origin. The ATC security are going to kill both of them in order to prevent any information from leaking out to the public.
Bishop has been neutralized.
Good work. Harley's men are still looking for the Wade girl, so see if you can locate Ian Hives.
Will do.
You eliminate the ATC squad on the roof. You then jump and land on a ventilation shaft. The ventilation shaft collapses and you fall down several stories.
Your signal's breaking up.
You make your way through the basement and use a cargo elevator to get back to the surface. While riding the elevator, you overhear the replica's radio chatter. They mention that F.E.A.R wants Mapes alive because Mapes might know the location of the vault. The vault is a reference to the vault that was used in Project Origin.
Son of a bitch, I thought we lost you. While you were out of contact, I got a read on Fennel's transmitter. He's all the way on the other side of the research area from you. You're gonna have to hustle to intercept.
They lost sight of Norton Mapes in this area. He can't get far with the elevators locked down. Understood. If Commander wants him alive and unharmed, he may know the location of the vault.
While making your way towards F.E.A.R's signal, Batter says that he has tried to reach Genevieve Aristide. She is the ATC president. Batter suspects that she's gone into hiding.
I've been trying to get through to Genevieve Aristide. She's the president of Armageddon. I was able to confirm that she wasn't around when Fennel's men hit the compound, but I can't seem to track her down. Maybe she doesn't want to be found.
After progressing further, you encounter a familiar face.
Hello? Who's there? Oh, it's you. Christ, I thought I was a goner.
Mr. Mapes, you're still alive.
No thanks to you guys.
What are you doing here?
The elevators are offline, and those soldiers are everywhere. Now, you've got to find the security office and override the lockdown.
You gonna stay put this time?
On my honor.
You override the security lockdown, then you return to the elevator to engage with your trustworthy friend.
Sayonara, sucker!
At least he's predictable.
You have to take an alternative path, but you eventually run into your good friend again.
Oh, perfect. You again. See this button? I wonder what this does. Oopsies. Bye-bye.
After surviving all the security turrets, you continue to follow F.E.A.R's signal. Batter says that F.E.A.R is heading towards the executive building to find Alice Wade. The task now becomes to find Alice Wade before F.E.A.R does.
Shit, I think Fennel's going after that Alice Wade chick Bishop mentioned. Looks like he's heading for executive building. You've got to get to her before he does. She might be able to help us figure out what Fettel's after. God damn it, I lost Fettel's signal again. This transmitter's a piece of shit. And I hope this chick's alive. Nobody's been snacking on her.
Eventually you find Alice. She's held captive inside her father's office.
You're not one of them. I'd pretty much given up on being rescued.
Thank God she's okay. Give her a comm link.
Hello?
Ms. Wade, we're gonna get you out of there, but you're gonna have to move quickly.
I need to get to my dad.
Where is he?
Some kind of classified facility. I've never heard of it. There isn't even a street address, just UTM coordinates. The entrances are all hidden, but I have passcodes.
Okay, buddy. Access Wade's laptop and upload the data on that facility. Alright, the data's been uploaded. First things first, get to the roof. The helo's on the way.
You mean a helicopter? Can we drive instead? My car's downstairs in the parking garage.
What, are you afraid of flying?
Kind of.
Trust me, you're safer in the air.
Yeah, right. Hurry! Let's go get my dad.
You're not going anywhere but a safe house till this is over.
What?
Don't worry, your father will be joining you as soon as we pick him up.
No way! I'm not going anywhere until I know he's okay.
Forget it, I'm not taking any more chances.
You and Alice make your way to an elevator. While inside the elevator the power goes out. You have to reset the power by pressing a button. While you're doing that, Alma is spotted inside the elevator with Alice. The elevator takes off and you're now separated.
You don't mess around, do you? What's going on? What happened to the power? I'll wait here.
You take an alternative route to the roof. On the roof you're reunited with Alice. Your evacuation helicopter is shot down. Alice then decides to get to her car in the parking garage. You chase after her.
There you are. How did we get separated? I remember the power going out in the elevator. Then the next thing I knew, I was arriving on the top floor and you were gone.
You should have a visual on the evac chopper.
Oh my God! This is crazy. I am not waiting here. My dad's in danger.
Your dad will be fine. You're the one I'm worried about. You just need to calm down.
Sorry.
Ms. Wade! Damn it, what the hell is she thinking? She's headed for the garage. You gotta cut her off before she gets herself killed. Ms. Wade, can you hear me?
Yes.
What do you think you're doing?
I have to know if he's okay.
Look, I'm willing to let you ride along to pick up your father, but you're putting yourself in a lot of danger right now.
Yeah, well, you said I'd be safe on a helicopter.
Those soldiers are looking for you. If they capture you again, they're gonna interrogate you, and believe me, their methods are very unpleasant.
I'll take my chances.
Stubborn little bitch, isn't she?
I'm sorry for the trouble, but I just made it to my car.
Miss Wade, just wait a minute.
I can't. I have to go.
Miss Wade! Fuck it. Get to the roof of the parking garage for a pickup. You can still get there before her.
Alice leaves on her own. You have to make your way to the parking garage roof for extraction. You eventually reach the roof and you're reunited with Jin and Holiday. All three of you enter the helicopter and you fly to the coordinates found on Hunter Biden's laptop.
This way!
It's good to see you in one piece.
You guys can make out later. Just get that bird in the air. The UTM coordinates from Wade's laptop are right smack in the middle of the Randall Meyer industrial compound in Auburn. The place has been shut down for years.
Why there?
Well, a little thing. Turns out Army Camp bought this site from the government back in the 50s. Get this, there used to be some kind of underground military complex in that area. I don't think Army Camp was interested in what was on the property. They wanted what was under it. I'm guessing it something to do with Oregon. We're hit! Dust 2 going down! Repeat, Dust 2 going down! Hold on to something!
He looks okay, but the pilot's dead and Jen's banged up pretty bad.
What about you?
I'll live, but it'll be a while before I can ice skate again.
All right. In that case, I want you to stay with Jen and wait for the medevac.
You sure you want to send him alone? These guys ain't fucking around.
We don't have a choice. Fettel could be anywhere, and Alice is out there on her own. By the time backup reaches you, she could be dead.
We're still a couple of clicks away from the Ramelmeyer compound, so you're gonna have to get there on foot.
I've got a lot of enemy movement in that area, so expect trouble. They probably want to make sure there weren't any survivors.
I hear you're a bad motherfucker. I hope it's true.
After progressing through the apartment complex, you overhear the replicas saying that they're searching for the vault entrance.
Hold position there until the advance team locates the vault entrance.
Later on, you have a vision of Fettel finding and killing Alice.
Is this who you're looking for? She smells nice. She told me so many things.
After progressing further, you overhear the replicas saying that Fettel has entered the vault.
Commander has entered the vault. All elements, secure a perimeter around the main entrance. Understood.
A while later, Holiday confirms that him and Jin have been evacuated from the scene. Meanwhile, you find the elevator leading down to the facility entrance.
This is Baby Bear. Medevac just got here. Glad to hear it. Thanks for the help. Wish I could have done more. Kick some ass. I want you out of there as soon as you got Wade and the girl. Get them back to base so I can debrief them in person. Good luck in there.
After making it into the facility, you're once again reunited with your good friend.
Do something about him. I'm not finished wiping these drives. I need more time.
After reaching the room that Mapes is in, you see a video feed of Harlan belittling Mapes. You also see Mapes complaining about the ATC security's inability to kill you. When reaching the vault entrance, you witness Harlan shooting Mapes.
Norton, do you really think you can get rid of the evidence by shredding documents and wiping hard drives? Genevieve Aristide dug her own grave, and she's going to have to make herself comfortable in it. Don't be a fucking lapdog and jump in after her.
He's coming! What good are you jack-offs? Forget this. The vault is open. Let's finish what we came for. I'm just doing my job.
And I'm doing what has to be done.
Finally. After this, you make your way to the vault entrance door. Mapes tells you to divert power to the door in order to open it. You then press a few buttons to divert the power. After that, you return to Mapes and enter the vault.
Fuckhead. He locked you out. The only way in is to divert power to the door.
decides to get rid of the evidence.
You have to destroy this facility before he lets her out. There are 4 pylons. Damage the reactor cells, and you'll trigger a chain reaction. Blow the whole place to hell, where it belongs. If he lets Alma out, you have to stop him.
I'm losing your signal. We may be out of contact from here on. Be careful of this Wade guy. God only knows what he's capable of.
When you arrive at the bottom of the vault, you finally catch up to F.E.A.R and kill him. All the replicas go offline because their commander is dead. F.E.A.R has also killed Alice. Later on, you find a laptop with a recording from Harlan explaining some of the reasoning behind picking Alma for Project Origin. You also figure out that the Point Man and F.E.A.R are Alma's children.
You still don't know, do you? What you are. Why you're here. What's the first thing you remember? What's your given name? Where were you born? You have no history. You and I were born from the same mother. You must have sensed it. She cannot see in your mind, but perhaps you can see into hers. A life of waking from one nightmare, only to find herself deep in another. I will set her free.
She was a very disturbed child. Terrible, debilitating nightmares, hallucinations, hysteria. She never had a chance at a normal life. It was Distler who realized she was telepathic. He speculated that she was extremely sensitive to the negative emotions of people around her. We removed her from that chamber only twice. She was 15 when the first prototype was born. She was supposed to be comatose, but she started screaming when we induced labor and didn't stop until the liquid filled her lungs. There are plausible scientific explanations for everything that followed, but I think it was really just a question of hatred. It is the way of men to make monsters, and it is the nature of monsters to destroy their makers.
After viewing the laptop footage, you find Harlan. Harlan opens Alma's chamber, letting her out.
They want to destroy her, but I think she's suffered enough. We put her in there 2 days before her 8th birthday.
No life signs detected.
She died 6 days after we pulled the plug.
You now see Alma walking around the facility. By using Mape's suggestion, you destroy the 4 reactor cells, which in turn destroys the whole facility. While being attacked by nightmares, you make your way towards the elevator in order to escape the collapsing facility. After getting out of the elevator at surface level, you have a vision about Alma giving birth to you.
He's alive. I just picked up his signal. If you can hear me, get to high ground. A chopper is standing by.
I've tried to forget. I've tried so hard to forget.
You will be a god among men. Take her back to the vault.
After taking another elevator, you jump out of a window onto the main street and witness something bombastic. Miraculously, you survive a nuclear blast to the face. You're then rescued by Holiday and Jin in a helicopter. Inside the helicopter, there is a final reveal.
There he is!
I don't know how you lived through that. We still don't know the extent of the damage.
We haven't been able to get through to anyone since the explosion. What about Alma? What happened to her? What was that sound?
Overall, I think that the story is good. It has a well-written and interesting plot. Personally, I'm not a big fan of storylines that are delivered in a piecemeal or ambiguous manner, but with that being said, I still think that the story is delivered well. If you're not paying attention to the story or you don't find all the laptops or telephone messages, a lot of the background information and context can be missed. Most of the time these laptops and telephones are placed in obvious positions, but you could still potentially miss out on aspects of the story. Most of the characters are good and have well-written stories and dialogue. There are dialogue lines here and there that are kinda dumb. One problem that I have with the story is the way that some of the characters are portrayed. Perseus is by far the best written character. He talks to the point man regularly, and you really get to see his character traits often and in a good way. As the player, you play as the point man, but the point man is just completely mute. Because of this, you can't really tell anything about him as a character. You only get some of his background presented, but it is never really utilized or explained. Of course, in the sequels they flesh that out, but as far as the first game, he is definitely underutilized. Jin only appears very briefly throughout the game and is not very fleshed out. It's the exact same thing with Holiday. This also extends to Jankowski. In the beginning he plays a vital role, but then during the harbor mission he just disappears. There's no real explanation as to what happened to him, and his fate is left ambiguous. Although you can assume that he was killed by F.E.A.R. Most characters that appear during hallucinations are dead. There's also a lot of scenes that allude to him being dead as well, but throughout the game Perseus makes a big deal about Jankowski's disappearance, reminding you about it constantly. Then all of a sudden the game just completely drops this aspect, which to me seems very weird. Why emphasize it so much just to completely drop it? Another character that I feel mixed about is Mapes. Mapes is used as a comedic relief character, which considering the otherwise dark atmosphere of the game, seems out of place. He feels like some of the wacky characters from No One Lives Forever. I can understand that they want to mix up the tone of the game to not keep it constant and boring, but I don't feel like F.E.A.R needs a comedy element. Another problem that I have with the story is the pacing. The game starts off with establishing things quickly, which doesn't bother me. Throughout the story there is a really good build-up where things are revealed at a slow and steady pace, but towards the end of the game you're basically exposition dumped and everything wraps up really quickly. Through the whole game you've been chasing after F.E.A.R, yet he manages to stay ahead of you or escape in every scenario. Then all of a sudden he's directly in front of you and you kill him in mere minutes. The payoff isn't appropriate, which leads me to the last thing. Throughout the game, the objectives keep switching all the time in a very unclear manner. You start with chasing after F.E.A.R, he escapes by knocking you out, all of a sudden his signal is lost. Then you head to the harbor, not to chase after F.E.A.R, but to deal with a replica squad. F.E.A.R just happens to be there. Then your squad is eliminated. Now you're tasked with reuniting with Jankowski's squad, but then Jankowski's squad is eliminated. Then all of a sudden F.E.A.R's signal is picked up again. Now your objective is to chase after him. Then you hear about the ATC headquarters attack. Now the focus shifts towards that. At the ATC headquarters you have to first reboot the server, then disable the security system. Then you do that. Then it's back to rebooting the server. Then again out of nowhere F.E.A.R's signal is back. Then it disappears. Now you're supposed to find the missing Delta Force team. Then it's back to F.E.A.R again, but then you run across Bishop. Now it's all about Bishop, and then Bishop is killed. Now it's all about the ATC forces. Then back to F.E.A.R again. Then it's all about finding Alice Wade, which you manage to do, but you're separated, and then Alice takes off in her car, which eventually results in her getting killed, because in the end F.E.A.R still managed to get a hold of her before you did. Then again, it's not about F.E.A.R or Alice anymore, now it's about the vault. You finally enter the vault after doing a bunch of laborious tasks. Now all of a sudden it's about stopping Harlan from releasing Alma, which you ultimately failed to do. Then you just happen to run into F.E.A.R in there and you unclimactically kill him. Then it's about blowing up the facility, which doesn't matter because it's not gonna stop Alma, and the facility is destroyed anyways because of the nuke. So you see what I'm getting at? The objectives switch up all the time in a confusing manner, and none of the payoffs for doing any of these tasks are worth it. It's convoluted for no reason, and the result is not satisfying. These are some of the laptop or phone messages that are relevant to the story.
Senator, it's Genevieve Aristide. I just wanted to assure you that the origin situation has been resolved.
But so much for discretion.
It was unavoidable. There is some good news, however. The first prototype was a complete success. message from...
Marshall Disler. This is Marshall. Look, something's happening over here at the Perseus compound. I can hear gunshots, but the security system just went down, so I don't know what the situation is. Just send all available security teams to lock this place down. I'll call back once I have a better idea what's going on.
End of messages.
Alright, it's uploading. Looks like the Icarus program got shut down in favor of something called Perseus, which, from what I can tell, is funded by DOD. I'm guessing that's where Fettel and his soldiers came from. The data's uploading. Well, this confirms the point of Perseus was to train telepathic commanders to work with clone soldiers, although it looks like Paxton Fettel was the only commander in the program. The weird thing is, they refer to him as the second prototype. Here's some more info about Fettel. He was developed as part of a project called Origin. It says the first prototype didn't work out. Fettel was the second, and there was never a third. They just pulled the plug a few years after he was born. There's a little more here about Origin. The reason they shut it down was a synchronicity event. Doesn't say what that means, but I guess there were a few casualties.
You have one new message. First message from...
Harlan Wade. Hi, it's Harlan Wade. I've been trying to get a hold of Genevieve all week, but the bitch never picks up her fucking phone. Now look, if you see her, tell her we're in deeper shit than I thought. Her brilliant idea of reopening the vault set something in motion that I can't explain, and I don't know how to stop. I sure hope she's happy.
End of messages.
Get this. A few weeks ago, ATC reopened the Origin facility. They were planning to clean it out and start the program back up, but they lost contact with everyone they sent in. So they just sealed the place back up. I found some more information on Origin. The prototypes were created from a genetic reference. I think that's just a euphemism for somebody's DNA. There's no indication of who the lucky son of a bitch was, but I'm guessing Harlan Wade, since he started the program. Well, Fettel wasn't made from Harlan Wade's DNA. There's an email from Wade about the subject being in an induced coma. Those ATC security goons killed Bishop because somebody didn't want this getting out. They aren't just worried about some ethically questionable bioengineering experiments. I think they're covering up some pretty nasty shit. More info on Origin. The genetic reference they used for the program is apparently powerful psychic. Makes sense. If you want a telepathic commander, you need a telepath. Anna was a woman. It says here she gave live birth to the prototypes. Seems Wade wasn't convinced the psychic characteristics were genetic. He figured there was a better chance they'd be passed along if the fetus gestated inside the subject. So they put her in a coma, made her carry a genetically engineered baby to term, then induced labor. That's pretty fucking sick. I figured out what a synchronicity event is. There was an incident where they lost control of Fettel. He just suddenly started freaking out. He was only about 10 years old at the time, but I guess he killed a few people. In the investigation, they discovered that there had been a telepathic link between Fettel and Alma, even though she was in a coma. They concluded that she was influencing him. That must have been when they pulled the plug on Origin. Oh, Jesus. He's just a kid. It says here Alma was 8 years old when Origin started up. They used a little girl. No wonder they're so fucking anxious to keep the lid on this mess. Somebody's gonna burn for this. That's why Aristide hasn't returned my calls. He's probably on a plane to Jamaica.
They just started shooting.
Command, all civilians have been neutralized. Echo 0, report. Echo 0, roger.
F.E.A.R is a first-person shooter mixing horror elements with fast-paced combat. The game is divided into sections of story or horror, and then those sections are split apart by combat or puzzles. The story is told through either some form of dialogue or through witnessing events. The horror is shown in a varied way. Sometimes they use jump scares, and sometimes they use a more slowly built up atmosphere. Some of the horror sections are good,
deserve to die. They all deserve to die.
And some of them are bad. The combat sections are often short but intense. The puzzle sections are usually very simple and easy to get through. In terms of the combat, you can either play tactically by slowly moving from cover to cover while using the leaning mechanic to peek out and take pot shots at enemies. Or you could play more risky by aggressively pushing enemies out in the open. In order to effectively dispatch enemies, you have to use the slow-mo effect. The slow-mo does exactly what it sounds like. It slows down the enemies significantly, but only the player a little bit. When you use slow-mo, the enemies are very easy to kill and you can easily fire well-placed shots. There's also something called a reflex booster. When you pick one of these up, you increase the total duration of your slow-mo. You start out with 100 health points. In order to restore your health, you need to use a medkit. Every time you pick up a medkit, it gets stored in your inventory. You can carry 10 medkits in your inventory, and each medkit restores 50 health points. There are health boosters hidden throughout the game that can be picked up. When you pick them up, they completely restore your health, but also raise your maximum health with 5 health points. You can also carry body armor. You have 100 armor points in total. You restore armor automatically by using pickups. Each pickup restores 35 armor points. There's no way to boost your armor. A problem with the gameplay is the lack of enemy types. In total there is 7 different enemy types, which maybe sounds like a decent amount, but you only fight one type for 90% of the game. Even though fighting the replicas are a lot of fun, it still feels like the game is lacking in enemy variety. So you have the standard replicas. Although they come with different weapons and appearances, they generally behave the same. In this category you also have the ATC security, which is basically just a reskinned replica. They behave the exact same. Then you have the replica assassins, who are partially invisible, highly acrobatic, and melee only. These are very fun to fight, but they only appear twice in the game. You have the replica heavy armor, who appear more regularly, but they're not that exciting to fight. They just have more health than normal replicas and move around slowly out in the open. You have the Rev 6 power armor, which is a large robot with high health that fires clusters of rockets. These only appear at a handful of times in specific sections. You also have the ATC defense turrets, which are just static turrets hanging on the ceiling. In a few horror sections, you also fight against the nightmares. They usually die in one shot and are melee only. And lastly, you have the UAVs. These are drones that fly around while shooting lasers at the player. Again, this maybe sounds like a lot, but you'll only be fighting one type that behaves the exact same for most of the game. There are 9 weapons in the game, and they are the following. The AT-14 pistol, which can also be dual wielded. The RPL submachine gun. The G2A2 assault rifle. The VK12 combat shotgun. The ASP rifle. The 10mm HV penetrator. The MP50 repeating cannon. Type 7 particle weapon. And lastly, the Mod 3 multi-rocket launcher. There are 3 throwables in the game, and they are the following: the N6A3 fragmentation grenade, the ATS proximity mine, and lastly, the M77 remote bomb. You can also use different melee attacks, and they are the following: the punch, the jumping sweep kick, the pistol whip, the butt stroke, the slide kick, and a one-legged bicycle kick. The melee attacks deal a massive amount of damage, especially the kicks, and will generally kill a replica in one hit. They are, however, completely ineffective against the Rev 6 power armor, the replica heavy armor, and the ATC defense turrets. But since this game is so firearms centric, you're generally not gonna use the melee attacks for combat at all. You'll only use it as a last resort or to break down obstacles in your path, such as ventilation grates or windows. There are no usable vehicles in the game, but there are sections where you can use some of the ATC defense turrets. The AI in this game is well known for being good, which it is. When the enemies are engaged in combat with the player, they'll try to work as a team. They'll do things like moving different types of furniture or things like vending machines or cabinets to use as cover. They'll post up at the edge of a wall to peek around corners. Sometimes one of them will lay down suppressing fire so that the other one can either push or try to flank the player. They are very aggressive when they have strength in numbers, but become more passive when their numbers diminish. They'll often throw grenades very accurately into choke points where the player is located. The replicas with SMGs or shotguns will aggressively push, while the ones with rifles will stay back. They can also navigate the environment effectively by vaulting through windows or crawling under knocked over shelves. All in all, the AI is really good. I'll mention some more aspects of the AI in the audio section. There are different types of saving systems in the game. You have a manual saving system, which you can use at any time, and you have a total of 10 slots to use. There's also a quick save option that saves into a unique slot. Then there is also a checkpoint system that saves automatically into a unique slot when you hit a save trigger on a level. This gives the player a lot of options in terms of saving. Unfortunately, there is no level selector, so you'll be stuck with whatever saves that you have saved into your slots. There are 4 difficulty levels in the game, and they are the following: low, moderate, high, and extreme. I played through the game on the extreme difficulty setting, and I only died a handful of times. The game is relatively easy if you utilize all the mechanics and equipment at your disposal. You need to bring the right equipment for the right scenario. You also need to listen carefully to the enemy radio chatter to determine what their plans are and how many enemies that are remaining. You also have to use the leaning mechanic while hiding behind cover, and when enemies appear in your sight line, you turn on the slow motion mode and go for headshots. If you do all of this, the combat scenarios should be pretty easy to beat. For a new player, I would recommend you to play on the easy or moderate setting in order to learn each section and all of the pickups. Once you beat the game on low or moderate, you can increase the difficulty to high or extreme. As the descriptions for the difficulty level state, it only changes the enemy accuracy and the amount of damage that they deal to the player. The enemies do not behave differently, have more health, have different weapons or equipment, and none of the pickups change. So for each difficulty setting, it is a pretty similar experience. By 2005 standards, F.E.A.R looked really good. The 3D models are well modeled and smooth. The textures are good as well. Two other games around that time that were pushing the boundaries for visuals were Half-Life 2 and Far Cry. In comparison to those two games, F.E.A.R looks equally as good. In terms of the level design, the levels are very linear. A lot of the maps do not have multiple paths to choose from, and you're often forced to go one specific way. The story sections are often very linear, same thing with the horror sections. Some of the combat sections open up a little bit more and allow the player more freedom in terms of movement and approach, but there is also an equal amount of combat sections that are very linear. The combat sections were specifically designed around the AI and they work very well. On the surface, the AI in F.E.A.R seems to be very advanced, but in reality, they're pretty simple. This means that the level design has to replicate that simplicity in order for the AI to work well. One problem with the environments is that they're very repetitive. A lot of the environments are either poorly lit or extremely gray. There's not a lot of color or brightly lit environments. In a lot of the levels, there are no notable landmarks, so you'll sometimes find the layout confusing and you'll get lost. There's also a certain amount of backtracking. Throughout the game, you'll easily become bored with the same type of feeling and look of each environment. You'll be navigating through derelict buildings, warehouses, a harbor, a sewer, an office complex, more office complex, and you guessed it, even more office complex. Rooftops, a parking garage, more derelict buildings, dirty streets and back alleys, a construction site, and lastly, a high-tech research facility. As you can see from the footage, the environments look very similar. They're not badly made, but they're just repetitive. F.E.A.R uses dynamic lighting to good effect. It is often used to cast shadows of enemies on walls before combat sections, or it is used during horror sections in order to build suspense. The following footage illustrates this.
Nothing to report. Squad on me.
Some light sources also interact with the player, such as throwing grenades near lamps, which will make them flicker. The HUD is minimalistic, sleek, and straight to the point. It has simple bluish-green elements that portray a lot of information with little occupied space. Since the game is very old, the HUD was made for old aspect ratios and smaller resolutions. When playing the game nowadays with a higher resolution, it will make the HUD appear very small. There are community-made fixes for this that resize the HUD elements if you want to download one. I never did so myself since the small HUD didn't bother me. The UI follows the same template of the HUD with a minimalistic and sleek design. During gameplay, F.E.A.R uses a number of filter effects. Some of these filters are the damage indicators, the red screen when you die, the slow-mo effect, and the blur during horror sequences. There's a decent amount of interactivity between the player and the environment. You can do things like shattering windows and manipulating objects. The gunfights in F.E.A.R are visually appealing and intense. Certain visual aspects that contribute to the high intensity are the ability to shoot chunks of concrete off the walls, these are not actual 3D deformities, it is simply just bump mapping used to great effect. Another aspect is the amount of smoke that is produced during gunfights. Other aspects are the electrical sparks that enemies display while being shot and the bullet trails that you see during slow motion. F.E.A.R also features a gore system. You can do anything from decapitating heads, decapitating arms, decapitating legs, splitting enemies in half, transforming enemies into red mist, and burn the skin and flesh off their bones. F.E.A.R also has pretty good water effects. The water on its own looks great, and there is a good level of interactivity between the player and the water. Unfortunately, water is not heavily used throughout the game. And finally, in terms of visuals, there is a Condemned Criminal Origins reference in one of the later levels. Condemned is the game that Monolith released directly after F.E.A.R. The soundtrack is almost 2 hours long. It was composed by Nathan Grigg. The music in F.E.A.R rarely takes center stage and is mostly used in the background. A lot of the tracks are pretty short. The short songs are between 1 and 2 minutes, while the longer ones are upwards of 7 to 8 minutes. The soundtrack is very diverse in terms of instrumentation. You'll hear anything from vocals, flutes, strings, synths, percussion, horns, bass, guitar, alarm sirens, and bells. As for the musical styles, you'll hear anything from orchestral, electronic, folk, and elevator music. These sections are some of the highlights of the soundtrack. The sound effects and the voice acting is also good. As I mentioned in the gameplay chapter, the AI in F.E.A.R is great, but what really sells the AI during the gameplay is the replica radio chatter. They recorded a large number of voice lines that the replicas used to make the gunfights more exciting. These are some of those voice lines. While firing the guns in the game, they have a very punchy sound effect. A lot of the handling sounds while reloading, equipping weapons and picking up ammunition is also good. The enemies in the game have very distinctive sounds that they make. You can easily tell which type of enemy you're about to face. They also have audible footsteps, which allows you to pinpoint their position. There's also a nice attention to detail, such as dropped bullet casings that will sound differently depending on the surface you're standing on. In order to really illustrate how good the audio is, I'm going to play some gameplay clips with the video removed. people that worked on the audio for this game did a great job. In terms of bugs and glitches, I didn't run into anything considerable. Off the top of my head, there were only 2 things that happened during gameplay. One of those things were occasionally getting stuck on items. This was a simple thing to solve by just wiggling or jumping my way out of those items or just reloading a checkpoint. Another thing that happened is while I was recording footage, I was reloading a bunch of saves, which I think messed up the game. Eventually, after reloading so many saves, certain button inputs on my keyboard would stop working. I don't know if this was related to reloading the saves, but that's my guess. I solved this by simply relaunching the game, and after that it was no longer an issue. Outside of the gameplay, this game is old, and the Steam version doesn't appear to be optimized for modern systems. While launching the game for the first time, I noticed that I got around 30 to 40 FPS, which is absurd considering my PC specs. After researching online, I found out that this is a known problem with the game and other games made from the same engine. I had to download a community-made direct input FPS fix. This is a DLL file that you have to insert into the install directory of the game. You download this at your own risk. The file had to be inserted into the main game folder, but also the 2 expansions folders. After inserting the file and launching the game ran without any FPS drops. Now I average multiple hundreds of frames instead of 30 to 40. Other than these 3 things that I just mentioned, the game ran very well. No big bugs or glitches, and not a single crash. The game is very stable. F.E.A.R took me around 6.5 hours to beat on the extreme difficulty setting. Since I played this game before, I knew where to go and what to do. If you're playing through the game for the first time, it might take longer. F.E.A.R is available on Steam and Good Old Games. On Steam it is listed for $8.99. On Good Old Games it is listed for $9.99. On Steam it is referred to as F.E.A.R Ultimate Shooter Edition. On Good Old Games it is referred to as F.E.A.R Platinum. Both of these versions include the 2 expansions, Extraction Point and Perseus Mandate. As far as each version goes, I don't know which one is the best or if they're the same. Since I own the Steam version, I know about the FPS problems with that version. I don't know if the Good Old Games version has the same problem, so in the end, pick whatever version that you prefer. In terms of the price, I would recommend you to wait until the game is on sale. I'd imagine that the game is on sale often and at a vastly reduced price. Spending $10 on an almost 20-year-old game is not a great investment. In order to summarize the game, I'm going to mention some of the positive, negative, and neutral aspects. One positive aspect is the gameplay. The gameplay is a lot of fun and very exciting. You have a good amount of weapons and equipment. You have access to melee attacks. Even though they're not useful in combat, it is still a nice addition. Other mechanics such as the health, armor, slow-mo, and the leaning works great as well. You have a robust saving system. Unfortunately, there's no level selector. They mix up the sections pretty good with combat, puzzles, story, and horror. And lastly, the AI, which is also really good. But that leads me into a negative aspect, which is the lack of enemy types. In total, you have 7 enemy types, but you only fight one of them for the most part. Even though fighting the replicas are a lot of fun, eventually you'll become bored with the same routine over and over again. One neutral aspect of the game is the story. The story comes down to personal preference. If you like the storytelling style, you'll like the story. The story itself is well written, but the way that it is told is not great. The story is given to the player in a piecemeal manner, which I'm not a big fan of. A lot of the details about events or characters are left ambiguous, which I'm also not a big fan of. A lot of the backstory is told through phone messages or laptops, which to me is kinda lame. There's also a lack of characters being fleshed out or given proper closure. At the end of the game, your exposition dumped and the story ends on a cliffhanger. And lastly, the pacing is off and the objectives keep switching around all the time. A second positive aspect is the graphics. For a game that came out in 2005, it looks really good. The 3D models and textures are good. It uses dynamic lighting and bump mapping to great effect. The HUD and the UI is good. It has great looking water. There is also a good level of interactivity between the player and the environment. The filter effects look good. The gunfights are fantastic. And lastly, the gore and blood effects are also really good. This leads me to a second negative aspect of the game, which is the environments. The environments are not badly made or bad looking, they're just repetitive. A lot of the areas are poorly lit and feature the same color palette. There are no distinct landmarks, and a lot of the environments look the same and feature the same props. By the end of the game, you'll probably be tired of the same dark and grey looking environments. A third positive aspect is the audio. The soundtrack is diverse in terms of instruments and styles. It is mostly used in the background and it fills the void very well. The sound effects are also good. I never noticed any sound effects that sounded bad or out of place. The dialogue is good for the most part. There are voice lines here and there that are not delivered well, but most of them are still good. A third negative aspect is the FPS problems. As I mentioned before, this is an old game using an old engine. Old games are not optimized for modern systems. Because of that, they're gonna have problems. Luckily, there is a community-made fix, but it sucks that the publisher or developer haven't stepped in and fixed it themselves. If you're selling an old game for modern systems on modern platforms, you better make sure that those games actually run well on modern systems. That's not something that the fans should have to do for you. Normally in the summary section I'll give the game a rating, but since I'm going to include the 2 expansions in this review, I'll rate the game and the expansions at the end of the video instead. Now, onwards to the first expansion, Extraction Point. F.E.A.R. Extraction Point, the first out of the 2 expansions released for F.E.A.R. Extraction Point was not developed by Monolith, it was developed by Timegate Studios. It was first released for PC on October the 24th, 2006. A while later it was released for the Xbox on November the 6th, 2007. The PlayStation version was originally planned, but was ultimately cancelled. Extraction Point was also developed using the Lithtech Jupiter Extended engine. Vivendi Universal Games was also the publisher for Extraction Point. Just like with F.E.A.R, I used the Steam version, which is version 1.0 retail expansion.
We still don't know the extent of the damage.
We haven't been able to get through to anyone since the explosion. What about Alma? What happened to her? What was that sound?
The war is coming. I've seen it in my dreams. Fire swirl, bodies in the streets, cities turned to dust. Retaliation.
Extraction Point takes place immediately after the ending of the base game. The helicopter that was evacuating the Point Man, Jin and Holiday has crashed into an abandoned building. Everyone except for the pilot survives the crash. You wake up inside the derelict building and you make your way towards the street level. Once outside, you see a church and you enter it. Inside the church you find F.E.A.R and he somehow reactivates all of the replicas.
Looks like we're all still alive.
Small favors. I can't reach anybody on the radio. Something's blocking the signal. That's not good.
We'll have to find another way down. You're in no condition to climb through that hole.
I'm fine.
Sure you are. Let's move.
Yeah, out. Gotta find another way out of here.
We made it to the roof. Man, it's dark.
Hang on, I'll drop the flare. We're going to make our way down the fire escape.
You asleep?
He's dormant. When F.E.A.R was killed, the replica's deactivated.
He's dead now.
I wanted to examine him.
Preemptive strike. Keep your radio on and we'll hook up down the road.
What, apart from the obvious?
For starters, this city is empty.
There must have been a radioactive element to the origin explosion and the city was evacuated.
Cities don't empty this quick.
I know it doesn't make sense. Not much does anymore. You killed me. I didn't like that.
After killing all of the replicas, you enter the tunnels below the church. While inside the tunnels, you encounter a new enemy type. Holiday then informs you that Jin has been kidnapped. Now all three of you are completely separated. You clear out the tunnels and arrive at an office complex. You clear out the office complex as well. Eventually you run into F.E.A.R and Alma.
Don't let them hurt me.
Here we are, brother. I seem to be a little worse for the wear. And you are prey. I'll leave the two of you alone.
You manage to survive the encounter with F.E.A.R and Alma. Immediately afterwards, you run into Holiday.
Up here! Up here! You got more of those freaks heading your way.
The target is heading your way. Watch that.
Get in the building. I'll meet you on the other side.
Man, you really pissed these guys off.
You make it halfway through the warehouse before you have a brief encounter with F.E.A.R.
Stay out of my way.
After this encounter, you overhear a conversation between Jin and Holiday.
Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. It's Holiday. How'd you get away?
I'm not Alice Wade.
Find someplace safe. I'm gonna make my way to you.
The replicas are everywhere. They're using the subways.
Huh. Took you on a little ride, did they?
You could say that.
Jin is now free but still separated from you and Holiday. You progress further and eventually reunite with Holiday.
All right. We're both still in one piece. I thought for sure you were dead. There's still time for that, I guess. Get in the building. I'll meet you on the other side.
We got him trapped!
After clearing out the courtyard of replicas, you head inside the building. While inside, you overhear a conversation establishing an extraction point at the Auburn Memorial Hospital.
We're gonna cut through these buildings. I'll meet you at the South Warehouse, half a click from here.
What the hell's happening? Is it everywhere? Is anyone still out there? Anyone but them, I mean.
I'm getting reports from all over the city. There's still pockets of Delta Force out there. We're trying to set up an extraction point at a hospital a couple of miles from here. Auburn Memorial. These freaks are everywhere, though.
I'm not far from there.
Good. You head for the hospital. We'll meet you there.
After this, you make it through more warehouses and overhear another conversation that alludes to the new enemy type.
Have you seen them?
Seen who? The replicas?
No. This is something else.
What is it, then?
I'm not sure. Be careful, both of you.
Later on, you arrive at another courtyard where you have to hold your position while being attacked by replica squadrons.
Looks like you got about 20 of those test tube motherfuckers heading your way. If you got any more tricks up your sleeve, I try them now.
You hold your position while Holiday makes his way towards you. Eventually he arrives and helps you out. Both of you manage to kill all of the replicas. After this you're reunited and you have an encounter with F.E.A.R, amongst other things.
Hold on there, buddy. I'm almost to your position.
I've got you covered from up here. We're clear. Rendezvous at the door.
Glad to see you're in one piece.
Long story short, the plan is to get Jen and regroup with what's left of Delta Force at the hospital. She's having a rough go of it. I know you guys deal with the spook house shit. But something tells me you've never dealt with anything like this before.
Weren't you supposed to kill him?
I believe so. This is not what she wants.
Uh-oh. You go ahead. I've got your back.
You see him too, don't you?
Shit. No wonder Jen's having trouble.
Man, this is not right.
Yeah.
You and Holiday make your way towards the construction site. Throughout the construction site you're battling replicas together. You eventually make it through the construction site and into another warehouse. Inside the warehouse, Holiday is attacked.
Uh-oh. I've got a bad feeling about this. Eyes high. This area is ripe for snipers.
Watch your six. We got more soldiers coming in from the warehouse.
There should be an exit about 1 click to our 6. Stand back. Hold up. You go check that out. I'll get this gate open.
We'll just meet up on the other side. Again.
I've got buku soldiers over here. I can use a hand. Stop grab assing. I need some help over here. Help me out here. If you're through with your fancy shooting, I'm going to blow this fence.
This way.
Back away from the fence.
We make a pretty good team out here. Careful. I've got a bad feeling about this. What were they trying to keep out? Some of these people killed each other. He did this to himself. I'm not exactly burning with curiosity about what's on the other side, are you? Man, this is not right. Not good. Find Jin.
With Holiday being dead, you continue with trying to get to the extraction point at the hospital, but now by yourself. You make your way to the city's subway system and run along the tracks towards the hospital. While fighting replicas at the tracks, you're helped by Alma.
Orange line, repeat. Orange line, cut him off. What the hell? Get out of here!
You're safe now.
After progressing through the subway system, you have a vision about F.E.A.R finding Jin.
He's here. F.E.A.R. Stay away from me.
I'm not going to do anything to you, Ms. Guan. But I can't speak for my mother.
Jankowski.
I tasted the good lieutenant's visions, and they were most revealing.
Spen. Your eyes.
This vision confirms the fact that Jankowski is dead, which was heavily alluded to in the base game anyways. A while after this, you see Jankowski one more time. You then enter the subway sewer system. While inside the sewer system, Jin informs you that the Delta Force team at the hospital have been eliminated. She also mentions that the replicas are aware of your position.
I made it. I'm at the hospital. Oh God, they're dead. They're all dead. They know you're coming. Be careful. They're hunting you.
You then exit the sewer system and come back into another track section. Inside the track section you see a replica planting explosives on the wall. They plan to blow up the whole subway system just to kill you.
The commander wants those charges primed and ready. Get those charges planted. The target is on his way. Baker 3 reporting. Charges are in place. Roger, Baker 3. Detonate the charges. Copy that. Detonating charges.
After eliminating more replica squads, you run into an old friend.
It's locked, dumbass. Oh, hi. I, didn't know it was you. Listen, you owe me. You wouldn't have gotten out of Origin without me. You know that, right? You wait right there. I'll come around and open the door. But you gotta promise me you'll take me with you. You using the grenade launcher? No, wait, I want the plasma rifle. How about the minigun? No? Ooh. Goodbye.
You eliminate the rest of the replicas in the subway system. When you've reached the end of the subway system, the explosive charges go off and you're flung to a nearby parking garage rooftop. You fight your way through the parking garage and end up back into another subway system. Inside the subway system you have an encounter with F.E.A.R.
There are replicas everywhere. They've taken the city. I don't know where to go.
You still don't know, do you? What you are. Why you're here.
You will be a god among men.
After this encounter, you arrive at an office complex next to the hospital. Inside this office complex you encounter F.E.A.R. once again. You also find Jin.
Why run? You cannot escape something you have been part of since before you were born.
You're not coming, are you? I'm going to die here alone. I don't want to die with them.
Soon you will have a choice to make. You are near the time when you will have to stop running.
Now that both Jin and Holiday are dead, you still continue towards the extraction point. You cross a skyway while under enemy gunship fire, and you make it into the actual hospital. Inside the hospital, you search for an elevator to get to the roof. While inside one of the elevators, it sounds like the cable snaps and the elevator falls down several stories. You exit the elevator and make it into the morgue section of the hospital. Inside the morgue, a mortuary cabinet opens up with Alma's body in it. You then experience a hallucination sequence. During the hallucination, you come across old characters. You also see Alma's child form and adult form merging. When that happens, you stop hallucinating. Immediately after the hallucination, you're contacted by Betters, and he confirms that a helicopter is sent to pick you up.
Alright, I just picked up a signal. If you can hear me, get to high ground. A chopper is standing by.
You then return to the elevator and take it up to the roof. On the roof you battle a final replica squadron. While trying to enter the helicopter explodes.
Stay sharp. Keep your eyes open for that Blackhawk.
You should know better by now.
You should have a visual on the evac chopper.
Dead Mother, this is Little Bird. We're on the ground. Hurry up so we can get the hell out of here.
They tried to bury their sins, but instead planted the seeds of their doom. But she would not be forgotten. We will make them remember. They will die. All of them. A war is coming. I've seen it in my dreams. Fire sweeping over the earth, bodies.
One thing that I like about the story is the fact that it continues F.E.A.R's story immediately after it ended. I don't like cliffhanger endings, so it is nice that the story is continued. Although with that being said, there are still some problems with the story. One problem is that they made a big deal about the replicas being deactivated since Fettel is dead. They show this at the end of F.E.A.R and at the start of Extraction Point. But then all of a sudden they just throw that out the window and the replicas are activated again with no explanation as to how. This would have been a great opportunity to maybe introduce a new enemy type instead of reusing the same old replicas. A second problem is the characters, which was also a problem with F.E.A.R. In Extraction Point you finally get proper closure for Jankowski, which is nice, but I don't like how they handled Jin and Holiday. In terms of Holiday, they give you more time to spend with him, which is cool. You also get to fight alongside with him as a companion, which is something that never happened in F.E.A.R with any of the characters, which I also think is really nice. He also seems like a really cool character, but then out of nowhere, they just kill him off. Right when Holiday started to feel like a proper character, they just pull the rug from under your feet, which sucks. The same thing happens with Jin. She's given a little bit more dialogue and screen time, but then also you just find her being dead. They finally start to build up the characters a little bit, but then completely squash it and flush it down the toilet. Another character that is completely butchered is Mapes. He only appears once in the expansion and he has the same look and demeanor, but his voice actor is not even the same guy. I mean, just listen to this.
Hello? Who's there? Oh, it's you. Christ, I thought I was a goner.
Mr. Mapes.
It's locked, dumbass. Oh, hi. I didn't know it was you. Listen, you owe me. You wouldn't have gotten out of Origin without me. You know that, right? You wait right there. I'll come around and open the door. But you got...
Still alive.
No thanks to you guys.
What are you doing here?
The elevators are offline, and those soldiers are everywhere. You've got to find the security office and override the lockdown.
You gonna stay put this time?
On my honor.
With you. You using the grenade launcher? No, wait, I want the plasma rifle. How about the minigun? No?
Ooh.
Goodbye.
What the hell? Overall, I appreciate the fact that Mapes was not heavily used as in F.E.A.R, since I don't feel like F.E.A.R needs a comedic relief character. In terms of other characters such as Alma and Fettel, I think it's nice that they're given more screen time, and I don't have any complaints about the portrayal of those characters. Perseus also makes a return at the end, but he only has a handful of dialogue lines, which is not enough to really be able to critique anything. They could have utilized him more. And lastly, regarding the characters, I think that it is cool that they added the old characters to the hallucination sequence, just to tie it into the base game a little bit more. To contrast Extraction Point to F.E.A.R, I like the fact that the phone messages and laptops are removed. I don't like that as a storytelling technique. There are phone messages in Extraction Point, but they're extremely few and don't really reveal anything considerable. The dialogue for the most part is fine, it never really bothered me. Certain voice lines are ripped straight from F.E.A.R, which is fine I guess, but it would have been better if they recorded more new dialogue. The pacing is way better in Extraction Point than in F.E.A.R. In F.E.A.R, the objectives kept switching around all the time in a confusing manner. That's not an issue whatsoever in Extraction Point. Just listen to the name of the expansion, that's where you're headed towards the whole game. The fact that the expansion is shorter in playtime than F.E.A.R also helps a lot. The last thing that I'll mention about the story is the ending. Just like in F.E.A.R, Extraction Point ends on a goddamn cliffhanger. The helicopter explodes, nothing is explained about what happens afterwards, and then the credits roll. There's not even a post-credit scene like in F.E.A.R. Plus, in the grand scheme of the story, you're just back to square one. At the start of the expansion, you crawl out of the wreckage of the old helicopter. At the end of the expansion, you basically do the same, but with a new helicopter. How did they actually progress the story in any way, shape, or form? If you look at it from a macro level, nothing really happened, except for certain characters being killed off, but other than that, nothing changed. The Point Man is still stranded in the middle of nowhere.
I'll check it out.
In terms of each section, there is not a lot of story or puzzles in Extraction Point. It consists mostly of combat and horror sections. The combat is great as per usual, but where Extraction Point really shines in comparison to the base game is its horror sequences. They are way better in Extraction Point than they are in the base game. These are some of my favorite horror sections. The gameplay in Extraction Point is extremely similar to F.E.A.R, so I'm not gonna go into heavy detail as to how certain mechanics work. I'll just mention some of the differences between the base game and the expansion. In terms of the player's arsenal, all of the weapons and equipment from the base game makes a return, but there is also 2 new weapons, and they are the Type 12 laser carbine. And the TG2A minigun. You also have one new piece of equipment, and that is the AP5 deployable turret. In Extraction Point they mix up the use of certain weapons more. For example, the rocket launcher and the ASP rifle appear way more often than they did in F.E.A.R. It's really nice that you can utilize those weapons more in the expansion. Not only the weapons are used better, but also the enemy types. First of all, every enemy type from F.E.A.R returns, except for the ATC security, the ATC defense turret, and the UAVs. The expansion also has new enemy types, and they are the heavy riot armor, which is an upgraded version of the standard heavy armor, the MI-24 Hind D, which appears in the base game but only as a troop transport and not as an enemy, the Rev-8 Leviathan, which is an upgraded version of the Rev-6 power armor, and lastly, the Shade. I guess it is primarily because the expansion is shorter than the base game that the enemy types don't feel as repetitive. For example, the replica assassins appear just as few times in the expansion as they did in the base game, yet they feel more impactful in the expansion. So in combination with a short playtime and 4 new enemy types, Extraction Point doesn't have the same issue as the base game with its enemy repetition. Another gameplay mechanic that changed is how the doors work. If you manually open a door using the F key by default, the door will open and then after a short period of time close on its own. In the base game, an open door would never close by itself. You can also melee attack doors to fling them open, which you couldn't do in F.E.A.R. Explosives such as thrown grenades will also open up doors. Other things that they added are supply boxes scattered throughout the levels. These are wooden boxes that can be broken by being shot, meleeed, or blown apart using explosives. Sometimes you'll find anything from health boosters, reflex boosters, health kits, or perhaps ammunition, and sometimes they'll be empty. And lastly, there are no more turret sections, and the saving system is also the same. The difficulty levels in Extraction Point are the same as in F.E.A.R. You have the same 4 difficulty levels: low, moderate, high, and extreme. The effects of each difficulty level is the same as in F.E.A.R. With that being said, Extraction Point felt a lot harder than F.E.A.R. I died way more often, and there are certain sections that are really tricky. I think it has to do with the higher number of enemies combined with the new level design, which I'll talk about more later. Just like with F.E.A.R, I'd advise new players to play on easy or moderate, learn each section, and then increase the difficulty. Just like in F.E.A.R, the way to effectively eliminate the replicas are using the exact same methods. Utilize cover and leaning, use all the weapons and equipment at your disposal, pay attention to the enemy radio chatter, and lastly, utilize the slow-mo mechanic and go for headshots. The level design in Extraction Point is slightly different than in F.E.A.R. In F.E.A.R, a lot of the levels were compact, whereas in Extraction Point there are sections that are big and open-ended. Of course, most sections are still very condensed, but these bigger sections change up the flow of combat significantly. It makes the game simultaneously more difficult, but also easier. The AI works best in close quarters with plenty of cover, so when these big sections come up, the AI can behave irrationally and run out into the open, making them easy targets. But since they have little cover, you also have little cover, and on the higher difficulties the enemies are very accurate with their shots, so you can be killed extremely quickly if you're caught out in the open. They also introduce a lot more verticality in the level design. There will be certain sections when there are enemies at higher elevation, and also sections where you'll be at a higher elevation. This is something that didn't happen that often in F.E.A.R, but you see it a lot more in the expansion. In general, Extraction Point consists of similar dimly lit and grey colored environments as in F.E.A.R. They do however try to introduce more color and more light in certain sections. This definitely helps with the repetitive nature of the environments, whereas in F.E.A.R it quickly got old with the same looking environments, and in the expansion it's not as bad. The different types of environments that you'll see is derelict buildings, a church, underground tunnels, an office complex, warehouses, a construction site, an industrial complex, streets, a subway, a sewer, a parking garage, a hospital, and lastly, the hospital rooftop. Some smaller visual changes are that you can now customize your crosshair. You can change anything from color, size, and opacity. Also, when you ADS, you'll get a tiny dot inside the crosshair that is otherwise not there. You also now have actual 3D deformities instead of bump mapping when shooting concrete off of pillars. Other than these mentioned changes, the visuals in the expansion is pretty similar to the base game.
What was that?
You bought yours today?
The audio in Extraction Point is very similar to F.E.A.R. They reuse a lot of the music and the sound effects. The expansion has its own soundtrack, but it mostly consists of short 30-second to 1-minute songs. The soundtrack was once again composed by Nathan Grigg. These are some of the highlights of the soundtrack. The sound effects are also the same. There's only new sound effects for the new weapons, equipment and enemies. Other than that, everything is identical. It's the same thing with the dialogue. They reuse certain lines and dialogue from the base game, but they've also recorded new ones, but not that many. Those voice lines are still well written and recorded. The only annoyance in the voice acting is the thing that I mentioned before, that Mates has a different voice actor that doesn't even sound remotely similar to the original one. Other than everything that I've mentioned, the audio is very similar to the base game, and there is not a lot of things to really say or add. When it came to F.E.A.R, there were very few bugs and glitches. The same thing cannot be said about Extraction Point. First of all, you need the community-made direct input FPS fix. That's the DLL file that has to be inserted into the install directory of the expansion. Since it's using the same engine, it has the same problem. Secondly, there is no available 1080p resolution by default in the game menu. This requires you to manually edit a config file. The config file is usually located in this directory. While inside that folder, you open the settings.cfg file in a text editor. You have to edit the screen width and screen height settings to match whatever resolution that you want. This is just a minor inconvenience, but I don't understand why this hasn't been patched in, considering the fact that it is available by default in F.E.A.R. A third issue that I had was that as soon as I hit a specific checkpoint on Mission 6, Terminus, I'd get a very low frame rate and the whole environment would turn black. I simply just had to restart the game and reload the checkpoint. After that, everything worked fine. A fourth issue was that when I was progressing from one level to another, I'd get a disconnected from server message. After this, I was unable to load into a new level, and just like before, I had to restart the game to solve this issue. I also had one random crash while trying to load into a new mission. And lastly, the fifth issue is that I'd get these random FPS drops here and there. I couldn't really see a pattern as to when they happened, and it had nothing to do with the previously mentioned FPS fix. This was something specific to the expansion itself. So all in all, in comparison to F.E.A.R, Extraction Point has way more bugs and can be considered way more unstable. Extraction Point took me around 4 hours to beat on the extreme difficulty setting. The expansion cannot be purchased as a standalone product. It is bundled into the same package while buying the base game. And as mentioned before, it is available on Steam and Good Old Games. I'll mention some of the positive, negative, and neutral aspects of Extraction Point in comparison to F.E.A.R. One positive aspect is the gameplay. It is still really solid. It's even better than in F.E.A.R in some regards, such as the better horror sections, the additional weapons and equipment, the better use of the enemies, and the extra enemy types. Other smaller factors such as the door rework and the inclusion of supply boxes are also nice additions. A negative aspect is the bugs and glitches. Extraction Point is way more unstable in comparison to F.E.A.R. These issues include the engine-based FPS problems, the non-available higher resolutions, certain checkpoint issues, the disconnected from server message in between missions, the random crashes, and lastly, the random FPS drops. As you can see, a lot of these problems were not present in F.E.A.R. A neutral aspect is the story. Just like F.E.A.R story, it comes down to personal preference. I don't like aspects such as them reusing the replicas, the way certain characters are handled, and the cliffhanger ending. Then there is aspects that I like, such as the dialogue. Even though they reuse a lot of the voice lines, it's still good. The pacing is way better, and I also like the fact that the phone messages and the laptop data is removed. So the story is a mixed bag. A second positive aspect is the environments. Some of the environments in Extraction Point are slightly more brightly lit or colorful than those in F.E.A.R. It also feels like they mix up the environments a lot better. There's of course going to be darkly lit and weird looking environments as well, but at least it feels like there's slightly more variety, which is a great thing. They also have more open levels with added elements of verticality. And lastly, the fact that you can customize your crosshair is also a good addition. A second neutral aspect is the audio. The reason that I place this in the neutral category is because it is mostly just reused music and sound effects. The audio itself is not bad by any means. There is new music and new sound effects, but it is such a small portion in comparison to the amount of reused audio, and that just feels like a wasted opportunity to include more new and unique audio instead. Instead of rating Extraction Point in this summary section, I'll rate it at the end of the video instead. Now, onwards to the second expansion, Perseus Mandate. F.E.A.R. Perseus Mandate, the second out of the 2 expansions released for F.E.A.R. Perseus Mandate was also developed by Timegate Studios. It was released for PC and Xbox on November the 6th, 2007. Once again, the PlayStation version was cancelled. Perseus Mandate was also developed using the Lithtech Jupiter Extended Engine. Vivendi Universal Games was also the publisher for Perseus Mandate. Just like with F.E.A.R and Extraction Point, I used the Steam version of Perseus Mandate, which is version 1.0 Retail Expansion.
Yes, Senator? Things have gone to shit at Armachem. What do you want me to do, sir? What you're good at, Morrison. You may not like the consequences. Perseus is mine. Get it back. I don't care what you have to do.
We're in.
Looks like there's more to this armor cam situation than we thought.
Isn't there already a F.E.A.R team on the ground?
There is, but ATC Security just murdered our primary contact, Aldous Bishop. And the fighting is spread throughout the city.
They're supposed to be on our side. Didn't ATC call us in to help them in the first place?
What's ATC hiding?
We don't know yet. Your mission is to secure Armycam's Global Data and Security Center and retrieve any information related to a project codenamed Perseus.
Paxton Fettel and his army of replicas?
That may just be the tip of the iceberg. SAT images have picked up enemy activity near the landing zone, so be careful. Head directly to ATC's data center once you're on the ground. As always, I'll be in radio contact with you throughout the mission. Begin your jump prep.
Time to fly.
Looks like we set you down in the middle of things. It's going to be a hard slog to the data center. That's Delta Force. What the hell are they doing here? See if Den Mother can give you any answers.
The story of Perseus' mandate takes place at the same time as F.E.A.R and Extraction Point. Right after Bishop is killed in F.E.A.R, you start following a second F.E.A.R team that is sent to investigate the ATC's Data and Security Center. The second F.E.A.R team consists of Lieutenant Steve Chen, Captain David Rains, and the Sergeant, which is the character that you play as. Rodney Betters returns as the team coordinator. In the intro, you overhear a conversation between an unknown senator and Gavin Morrison. Morrison is tasked with getting back something called Perseus. Perseus is alluding to the ATC's Perseus compound, which was mentioned in a phone message in F.E.A.R. When you start playing, you fight through squads of replicas and make your way towards a sewer. While entering the sewer, you're separated from Chen and Rains.
Data center is 5 blocks due east of here.
On the other side of this power station is a drainage pipe. We'll be able to take the sewers within a block and a half of the data center. Take him out, Sergeant, before he radios for backup. Watch out! Smooth move. Don't worry, brother. We'll get you out. On me. Fall back. You're gonna get yourself killed. We're getting pounded here. Keep in radio contact and make your way to the data center.
You battle your way through the sewer system and eventually resurface near the ATC facility.
Glad to have you back. I sure as hell didn't want another missing man. You had us worried there, Sergeant. Glad you're back.
The streets near the ATC facility are in total chaos. The ATC security is fighting the replicas and you're fighting them both. There's also a missing Delta Force team inside the ATC facility that was sent in prematurely. You're tasked with meeting your squad at the maintenance entrance of the facility.
Careful, there's fighting everywhere. We don't want you walking into a crossfire. I just got word from Den Mother. They're missing a Delta Force team. Worse, they sent them into the data center without telling us. Great. Let me guess. They want us to find them. Professional courtesy. Rescue and recon, then. Roger that. Keep your focus. Get to the data center. ATC is hiding something big, and we're caught in a crossfire. I've got Den Mother breathing down my neck about his men. Let's pick up the pace. Remember, we're meeting at the maintenance entrance.
About time, Sergeant. Nice to see you got all your fingers and toes.
You did good, Sergeant. Is there replica activity in the building?
No sign of replicas on the satellite.
We proceed with extreme caution. We still don't know what we're dealing with.
I want an immediate feed of any and all data collected.
Copy.
Stay close, Sergeant.
Now that you've entered the facility, you find a number of dead workers. The workers have been killed by a currently unknown faction.
Replicas do this?
Not their MO.
Are any of the other teams reporting anything at all like this?
Negative. Looks like we got a unique situation on our hands.
Yeah,
Jen, what do you make of it?
Let's see what we got here. Multiple gunshot wounds, lacerations, and evidence of blunt trauma. Whoever did this is thorough.
These are some nasty motherfuckers we're dealing with. Proceed with extreme caution. We still don't know what's in this building.
All the security gates are closed because the building is in a security lockdown. You're tasked with disabling the lockdown. You manage to do so, and while heading back towards your squad, you encounter the unknown faction.
Watch your ass.
Great. Some numbnuts tripped the gates. The building is in lockdown.
Sergeant, find some way to get these doors open and the lights back on.
Listen up. We've got live Delta Force in the building. They've holed up on the 3rd floor in a security office. I want your team up there now.
Yeah, well, we're not going anywhere till we get these gates up.
Jen, stow it.
I'm just saying.
Then get the gates open. We don't know how much time they have left.
Good work, Sergeant. 2nd floor's open. Let the D-boys know we're heading up. Sergeant, we're taking fire. These must be the bastards that killed the civilians.
After eliminating soldiers of the unknown faction, you're contacted by the missing Delta Force team.
This is Delta Force C Detachment. Do you copy? Does anyone copy?
Roger. What's your sitrep?
We're on the 3rd floor. They've herded us into a security office. I don't know how much longer we can hold out.
Copy.
Pick up the pace. Delta Force isn't gonna rescue itself.
While heading towards the Delta Force team, you're provided with some additional information about the unknown faction.
Who the fuck are these guys?
These guys are definitely not replicas or associated with ATC. They must be mercs of some kind. I want to know who hired these guys and why. Find me some answers.
You have one new message.
This is Greg at Corporate. Scott Rasmussen's not answering his landline or his cell. You guys there at all?
End of messages.
I've pulled some schematics. You're gonna need to make your way to the computer core in order to access the mainframe.
You have one new message.
Scott, Walt Gregg here. Word's coming down from up top to dump all data pertaining to an origin. All tangential files labeled Perseus, Icarus, and Synchronicity are to go as well. Something big must be going down.
End of messages.
This isn't the first time Synchronicity has come up tonight. It must be connected to Perseus and F.E.A.R. We need to move fast. They've been scrambling to destroy information.
You have one new message.
Scott, I'm not seeing any evidence of a data dump on my end. What's going on?
End of messages.
You eventually find the Delta Force team, and you witness Morrison interrogating Bristol on a camera feed. Bristol is eventually killed by the commander of the unknown faction. After the interrogation, you have to hold your position against waves of soldiers from the unknown faction.
We found Delta Force. Repeat, we have found Delta Force.
What took your ass so long to get here? If it weren't for that turret there, we'd be dead.
Yeesh. Looks like my apartment in here.
Jen, I want those back online ASAP.
I'm already on it, Captain.
What's the sit rep?
Grim. This is all that's left. These guys, whoever they are, they're good. Came out of fucking nowhere and took out most of my crew. How are you three gonna take them on?
That's classified.
Any idea what it is they're after?
Not a clue.
We're gonna have to recon the entire building.
I'd like to get my men out of here first, if you don't mind.
What's the status on the medevac?
The Black Hawk is on its way.
This should do it. Damn, look at that.
This is not good. Hang on, what's this? Put it on the main screen.
Give me the encryption codes, and this'll stop.
I can't do that. I just can't. I can't.
You mean you won't, Mr. Bristol. You ran Perseus for Harlan Wade. And I know you have the encryption codes.
No, it wasn't me. I swear. I don't have the codes.
The decryption code, Mr. Bristol. The code, the code, the code. How can I be more explicit,
I've already told you, I don't know what you're talking about.
We're gonna take synchronicity with or without your help, Mr. Bristol. Make it easier on yourself. Cough up the codes.
Synchronicity was an event. There's nothing to steal. You're gonna recreate the event. You'll need her for that. And she's someplace you'll never find her. Pray you don't.
We'll decrypt the data ourselves.
We're being watched.
Kill everyone in the building.
That was one mean-looking son of a bitch.
We've got to move these men out of here and fast. Sergeant, hold them off while we get the wounded out.
Don't look so worried. Just get on that turret.
You defeat the soldiers and you now have to find the mainframe. While making your way towards the mainframe, you overhear conversations about Alma and Fettel. After reaching the mainframe and downloading the data, you then have to reach the lobby for extraction.
The mainframe should be located adjacent to the computer core. Move out.
I'm gonna need access to their mainframe. From there I can trace all network traffic within the last couple of hours and get a better idea of what they're after. I want an immediate feed of any and all data collected. The other team has confirmed that the point of Perseus was to train telepathic commanders to work with clone soldiers, although it looks like Paxton Fettel was the only commander in the program. Your tax dollars at work, gentlemen. It appears that Fettel was developed as part of a project called Origin. They pulled the plug a few years after he was born. Apparently something went seriously wrong. We've got an unaccompanied minor in the building. Keep an eye out for a girl, approximately 8, in a red dress.
What are you talking about?
She was right there.
Stay focused, Lieutenant.
Find the mainframe yet? Okay, we got Delta Force out. Jen and Rains are heading back in. Fantastic, the data's uploading. Okay, make your way to the lobby and wait for extraction.
While progressing towards the lobby, you enter a room that Alma is in. You're then, in ordinary F.E.A.R fashion, flung through a window.
Okay, so they got the data they were after, but didn't have time to completely cover their tracks, so we may get a break here. The actual data is encrypted.
Here's what I don't understand. Replicas are Perseus, right? Everything in this building is ancient history? So why here when there's a real live Perseus compound out there? Ouch. That looked like it hurt.
You're rescued by your squad and put in a helicopter. The helicopter is flying to the ATC Bioresearch Division and Corporate Archives. While trying to land, you're put under heavy enemy gunfire and you're forced to choose another landing zone. You land at the other zone and make your way into the Bioresearch section.
How's your head?
He's fine.
We decrypted the stolen data. It's an address list. 2 of them are near your current position. The 3rd is in the Auburn district.
We have 2 targets, Armacam's Bioresearch Division and their corporate archives. I'll be coordinating with Delta Force on the ground. Chen, take the archive building. Sergeant, you take Bioresearch. Stay in radio contact at all times.
And try not to get blown out of any more windows.
taking fire!
Get us out of here, Captain. Find a better LZ. Holy shit.
What's the sit rep? We got a shitload of replicas in ATC fighting it out in the plaza. Some of the men are caught in the middle. We're about to move in and pacify the area.
Have your assignments. Move!
While inside the bioresearch section, you find phone messages referring to something called the Source. You also find Morrison and overhear him mentioning the Source, which is what they're after. The commander of the unknown faction reveals that they're planning to kill Morrison and steal the Source for themselves.
You have one new message.
It's Brett. Put together a team. We need to remove the Source.
End of messages. You have one new message.
Hey, Davies here. Some suit from corporate just called and ordered us to destroy something called the Source. Does it mean anything to you?
End of messages.
Are we sure about this second facility?
Positive. We got it pinpointed on the GIS.
Send in a team immediately.
The Senator wants me to collect the Source personally.
Yes, Mr. Morrison, I remember your request.
Don't fuck with me.
Once we've decrypted the codes, eliminate him.
After this, you're provided with some more context about Morrison and the Source through phone messages and radio chatter.
You have one new message.
It's Brett. I'm going to tell you straight up, the Source is not something to fuck around with. Let me handle it. You pretend you never got the message.
End of messages.
Alright, this is beginning to make a little more sense.
Enlighten us.
I'm in the corporate archives. ATC ran one project called Origin at a secret location in Auburn. But get this, there was another hidden project, an underground cloning facility.
Location.
On an island, out in the harbor.
Upload the coordinates. You three will have to finish up there before we can hit that island.
I'll bet my pathetic paycheck that's where they're headed next.
We've identified one of the hostiles. He is one Gavin Morrison. I want him taken into custody. That means alive. I don't want a repeat of Amarillo.
That was an accident.
The data's uploading now. The source is Paxton Fettel. Apparently he is the primary replica gene donor. Now Fettel's DNA is here. What's on that island? Update on Morrison. He's ex-NSA. Something of a cowboy. He was forced out by a scandal a while back. Since then, he's been handling the dirty laundry of the rich and powerful on Capitol Hill.
You progress further into the bioresearch section and eventually run into Morrison. Morrison spots you and starts running. You chase after him.
Commander, I need help. I don't care what you're doing. Get me out of here.
Morrison's bolting. Intercept him.
Where are you? God damn it! What does that mean? The situation is evolving. Senator, the situation is deteriorating. You need to pull the plug and fast.
Morrison's making a run for it. Intercept him.
Can we grease that pig?
Negative.
Damn.
After making it out of the elevator, you find a number of deactivated replicas. They're deactivated because Fettel has now been killed, which means we're at the end of the F.E.A.R storyline. You continue to chase after Morrison.
Replicas appear to have gone dormant. They've stopped moving.
That would mean Paxton Fettel has been eliminated. We're close to wrapping this up.
You witness the nuke going off just like in the ending of F.E.A.R. You, Chen, and Morrison are now trapped underground. Rains is considered missing in action. You and Chen battle through the underground area until Chen is attacked by a new enemy type.
How the hell does ATC think they're gonna get away with this?
What do they pay these guys?
What?
Well, I sure as shit wouldn't do this for $9 an hour, would you?
Heads up, Sergeant. We've got you covered.
Get Morrison and let's get out of here.
Sergeant, you deal with the rent-a-car. We'll catch you Morrison.
Where do you think you're going?
You have no idea who you're dealing with.
I don't care.
Son of a bitch.
Shockwave!
Take cover.
Come on! The door won't open! Come on! Here's the situation. Rains didn't make it underground, and the radio's out. Piece of shit. Get moving. You still have a job to do. I'm not gonna let that asshole get away. You know, I think we're in the old underground metro area. It was destroyed by a big earthquake, and the new city was built on top. Took my kids on the tour last summer. I've never been to this section. How long has it been since the explosion? I wonder when this shit happened. Where the fuck have you been? Come on, let's go. As near as I can figure, that explosion triggered a massive outflow of... You know, I don't know what the fuck is going on. You take point. We're way beyond the briefing now. Definitely through the looking glass. What's that? Did you hear that? On your six! Over there! Use a hand here! Let's get the fuck out of here. Fuck! Hey, up here. Hold on, I'll be right down. Up here. That was almost as bad as fucking Amarillo. Come on, Morrison's getting away. Something's got my leg. Something's got my leg! Fuck, help me!
Chen is now dead and you have to continue by yourself. You eventually run into Morrison, but Morrison gets captured by the unknown faction. You still chase after him and make it back to the surface. At the surface, you're contacted by Rains and you're ordered to continue to chase after Morrison.
I don't know if you can hear this, but if you can, get me the fuck out of here. What the fuck?
We've got Morrison.
Sergeant, thank God. Guessing Chen didn't make it. Shit. The explosion took everything offline. I don't hold out much hope for the other team. Near as I can figure, they were in an Armacam facility when it exploded. I'm heading your way. Keep after Morrison. I want to question that son of a bitch personally. Morrison should be around there somewhere. Keep your eyes peeled. I don't want that SOB to get away again.
You eventually make it to a train yard. In order to progress further, you have to flip a switch and open a door. While doing this, you notice that some replicas have gone missing.
My guess is the Mercs have some kind of temporary base of operations near where you are. See if you can find it. Just because everything's gone to hell doesn't mean we don't have a job to do. I want to know who these Mercs are, what they want, and who hired them. Seeing replica activity again. This doesn't make any sense.
The replicas are now reactivated, which means that we're at the start of extraction point. You eliminate some replicas in the train yard and make it to the unknown faction's temporary base that Rains mentioned. Inside this base you're provided with more context about Morrison and the unknown senator.
All mission essential personnel are to report to the helipad for deployment. If you encounter Morrison, bring him immediately to the commander. He and the senator are rapidly becoming more trouble than they're worth.
Did he just say senator? Figures with Morrison involved. Wonder how high up this goes.
Morrison, half the fucking city just blew up. What the hell are you doing? I don't care who you are. I'm pulling the plug on this one. Pack up and leave the city.
After all of this, you find Morrison inside a cage in a warehouse.
Hey!
Is that Morrison? Give him a radio. So, tell me, asshole, was it worth it?
Got to get me out of here.
Then why the fuck should we do that?
You've got to let me out. They're going to kill me.
That's your problem.
Right now, the Nightcrawlers are trying to get their hands on her DNA.
Whose DNA?
Her name was Alma. She was the primary donor for both Origin and Perseus. The Nightcrawlers were supposed to hand it over to me.
You better not be making this shit up.
There's a shortcut. It's a supply tunnel. I know where it is. We can get there before they find her.
All right, Sergeant, let him out.
We have to hurry if we're going to stop them.
If Mr. Morrison tries to escape, shoot him.
Morrison has now revealed that the unknown faction is known as the Nightcrawlers. He also has revealed that the source is Alma's DNA. You now follow Morrison through a supply tunnel leading towards the Perseus compound. Your objective is to acquire Alma's DNA before the Nightcrawlers do.
It's right around here, in one of these buildings. It's just through here.
was beginning to wonder.
Isn't Paxton Fettle dead?
Well, I'd ask him how he was, but he just vanished into thin fucking air.
Sergeant, we're gonna lose contact here pretty quickly. I'm only a few miles behind you. I'll see you on the island.
You and Morrison reach a large gate that has to be opened by flipping a switch. You flip the switch and go through the door. While inside the next room, you have an hallucination. After the hallucination ends, Alma provides some chiropractic adjustments to Morrison.
Damn, they're closed. Goddamn controls have gotta be around here somewhere. Make yourself useful, why don't you? Ah, hell, look at this. Looks like that's a go. Let's get moving.
She had been dead for 3 years when she first came for me. She destroyed them with the raw edge of her pain.
Tell me you saw that.
I guess that this would fall under vehicular manslaughter. You keep on trucking and are contacted by Rains. Rains confirms that the Perseus compound was the replica cloning facility. You have to reach the bottom 3rd level, which houses a vault where Alma's DNA is stored.
I hope you can hear this. I've managed to tune one of the Nightcrawler radios to our frequency, and it should transmit underground. Unfortunately, it didn't come with a decoder ring, so no eavesdropping. These guys really know how to cover their tracks. I'm getting next to nothing on them. I did manage to get some schematics of the cloning facility, though. They built this thing underneath an abandoned mine, carved it out of solid rock. Must have taken years. Morrison, God rest his soul, said they were gonna get this Alma's DNA. From what I can see, the facility is divided into 3 levels. One for basic research, the next level down was where production occurred, and the final level was a kind of vault. You'll need to get to the vault.
After making it through a mine, you reach the actual facility. While inside the facility, you experience hallucinations that provide some backstory to Alma and Fettle, but also what happened inside the facility. Rains also provides some information about the Nightcrawlers.
He robbed her of her childhood, stole her children, and took her life. My mother does not like thieves.
The subject has changed. Anyone can see that. Price says it's because of her. ATC's quarantined the facility and placed us all under precautionary observation.
My name is John Briers. I'm a geneticist with Armacam's Perseus project. The entire facility is in lockdown. We are being held prisoner.
Get the Fettle. They're here.
Something has gone wrong with the second prototype.
I never cared much for him. They should have left us alone here together.
Alright, they are mercs, but they obviously didn't cobble a team together to do this. This is a permanent freestanding army. Never seen anything like it before. There are no names, no ID of any kind on any of them. But they've got files on us. You, me, Betters, Chen. Whoever they are, they're connected. The more I see of this, the more I don't like it.
I felt her reach out and walk through their minds. She found me here, hiding from her. If you can such a thing. They were trying to protect me. Foolish of them, really. She was my mother. Did I tell you about my brother? You remind me of him. I didn't like him either. I never met my brother until the day he killed me. We're a complicated family. Wouldn't you agree?
You then find the vault entrance. The Nightcrawler commander is already there. You watch him taking Alma's DNA. You then start pursuing him.
I want the vault open and us out of here in 5 minutes.
You don't want to do that.
Sir, Paxton Fettel has entered the area.
Ignore him. Get the vault open.
But...
I said ignore him.
Sir, the vault is open. We're going in. Did we get him? Evacuate the area.
I did warn you. This is not your affair. Leave.
I have the DNA. Prepare for extraction. Surely F.E.A.R can do better than you.
You eventually corner the Nightcrawler commander and he's forced to fight you. You manage to kill him. You then acquire Alma's DNA and take an elevator up to the surface. At the surface, you're reunited with Reigns.
That is sending one of his tin men to kill me? Typical. Kill him, or don't bother returning. Looks like I'm going to have to do this myself. Killing me won't stop them. You are a fool if you think this is over.
Get topside once you've recovered the DNA. Got Delta Force choppers inbound. Let's move.
You and Reigns battle through a large number of replicas and reach the Delta Force helicopter.
Those choppers aren't gonna wait all day. Move out. Sergeant, to the docks now.
I was stuck!
You did real good, son. Team's gonna need a new lieutenant after this. I think Chen had wanted to be you.
One thing that I like about the story is that it ties it into F.E.A.R's and Extraction Point's stories. Events such as the killing of Bishop in F.E.A.R, the killing of Fettel in F.E.A.R, the nuke exploding in F.E.A.R, and Fettel reactivating the replicas in Extraction Point. It's cool that they're included and have an effect on the events in Perseus' mandate. Another thing that I like is the dialogue. Unlike Extraction Point where they reused a bunch of dialogue, which I feel is cheap, they actually recorded new dialogue. And just like usual, the dialogue is well written and recorded. Perseus' mandate also has good pacing. F.E.A.R had problems with its pacing. Extraction Point was better, but I think that Perseus' mandate is even better than Extraction Point in regards to pacing. I also like the fact that the replicas are not as heavily used as in the previous titles. In F.E.A.R they became very repetitive, in Extraction Point it was a bit better, but in Perseus Mandate it's even better than Extraction Point, primarily because they finally introduce a new faction, the Nightcrawlers. The Nightcrawlers behave very similarly to the replicas, but they change it up a bit more with their unique look and voice lines. Then you have the Nightcrawler Elites that behave differently during slow-mo to change up the combat a bit more. A final good part of the story is that you for the first time are able to fight alongside a squad. In F.E.A.R you were always alone, in Extraction Point you fought alongside Holiday for a short period, in Perseus Mandate you'll fight alongside Chen and Reigns, either at the same time or one of them separately. You're still mostly alone, but it is a nice change of pace when fighting side by side with allies. In terms of the characters, the new characters are pretty good. The franchise has a tendency to kill off characters right when you feel slightly attached to them, and this happens in Perseus Mandate as well. Chen is a likable character, and the underground section with him is probably the best section in the expansion, but just like with Holiday and Jin, he is killed off, in my opinion too early. The same thing goes for Morrison. You chase after him for a large portion of the game, until you finally find him, and within 5 to 10 minutes he's killed off as well. This is an annoying reoccurring theme within the franchise. Fortunately, Reigns actually survives throughout the whole game. After the nuke goes off, you're not contacted by Betters anymore. Reigns basically takes over Better's position as a commander, and he talks to you regularly. Overall, I think that Reigns is a good character. Interesting factoid is that the voice actor for Reigns was also the voice actor for Paladin Danse in Fallout 4. I felt like I recognized his voice. Betters also makes a return as previously mentioned. It's the same thing with him. I feel like he's consistently a good character, just like in F.E.A.R. Then you have the player character, the Sergeant, who is mute, just like the Point Man. One thing that doesn't make any sense is the fact that the Sergeant has access to slow-mo, just like the Point Man did. I thought that the whole point of the Point Man was that since he was the first prototype, he gained those reflexes either through training or genetics. How come that the Sergeant also has access to slow-mo, considering that as far as the game tells, he was not involved in any type of experiment? It just seems odd to me. Allmine Fettel also returns, but they're not featured very much. But when they're featured, they act accordingly to previous titles, so no complaints there. Lastly, you have the Nightcrawler Commander, who acts like the primary antagonist and final boss battle. I don't feel like he's a great villain. You only see him a handful of times throughout the story, and you're given basically no background information about him whatsoever. They could have had him maybe killing off either Chen or Reigns to motivate the player to dislike him more, but they don't do that. The commander as a villain kind of falls flat. There's also the return of phone messages and the laptop data, which I'm not a big fan of. They utilize them a lot less in Perseus Mandate compared to F.E.A.R, and they're a lot more straightforward. But I still think that it's a lame way to deliver story context. And the last thing that I'll mention is the ending. Another goddamn cliffhanger. At the end, the F.E.A.R team manages to secure Alma's DNA, and the Nightcrawlers manage to secure Fettel's DNA for the unknown senator. For what reason? What either faction is planning to do with either DNA is never explained, and what happens afterwards is left blank. Hell, you don't even know why their DNA is so important to begin with. To create another replica army? It's all just left to speculation. There's arguably more questions after the expansion than before it.
Remember, no one touches the source but me.
We've got Morrison.
Losses.
Acceptable.
We've got company. This isn't looking good.
Just like with Extraction Point, I'm not going to go into heavy detail about mechanics because they're the same across the 3 titles. The combat is still good, and the horror sections are on par with the improved ones in Extraction Point. These are some of my favorite horror sections.
What the fuck was that?
Is someone there?
Document it all. Leave nothing out. Yes, sir.
What the fuck?
All the weapons and equipment from F.E.A.R and Extraction Point appears in Perseus' mandate, but there's also 3 new weapons, and they are the K3BT grenade launcher, the VES advanced rifle, and the LP4 lightning arc weapon. In terms of the enemy types, every single enemy type from F.E.A.R and Extraction Point returns except for the UAVs and the Mi-24 Hind D. Certain enemy types that were removed from Extraction Point reappear in Perseus' mandate, such as the ATC Security, who now have a armored variant, and the ATC Defense Turrets. There's also a new enemy type known as the Scarecrow, which is the enemy type that kills Chen. Since the Nightcrawlers are introduced, you also have 3 different types of Nightcrawlers, and they are the Light Soldiers, the Heavy Soldiers, and the Elite Soldiers. The Elite Soldiers in particular are by far the most difficult enemies in the entire game, and this is why. Lastly, you have the Nightcrawler Commander, who acts as a boss battle. He behaves exactly like the Elite Soldiers, but he has more health. Other than that, they're the same. They've also added 3 new bonus missions. You unlock the bonus missions by beating the main story on any difficulty. The missions are basically just additional combat sequences and don't provide anything related to the story. The bonus missions are Mission 1, Clinic, Mission 2, Arena, and Mission 3, Sprint. In Mission 1, you start off in a back alley fighting against replicas. You enter a garage that leads to a courtyard. From the courtyard you enter a building, which happens to be the clinic. You keep fighting replica squads. Eventually, you reach the basement of the clinic, which is a morgue. Inside the morgue, you fight against Nightcrawlers. After clearing out the morgue, you head towards an exit door. After exiting the building, the mission ends. In Mission 2, you're situated in a big open courtyard that you can't leave. There will be waves of enemies that will spawn and drop into the arena. You have to eliminate a total of 6 waves, with each wave getting progressively more difficult. At the end of each wave, you receive an airdrop with supplies. This mission can be somewhat difficult until you learn the enemy spawns and what type of equipment to save for each wave. Once the 6 enemy waves have been eliminated, the mission ends. And lastly, mission 3, which is very similar to mission 1, you spawn into a lobby. You clear out the lobby of replicas and you battle through more squads while progressing through different office spaces. Interesting fact about this mission is that the UAV enemy type makes an appearance. This is the only part of the game where the UAVs are fought. They do not appear in the main story. Eventually you make it into the basement and clear it out, and at the end of the mission you reach a server area. You clear the server area out as well and enter an elevator. Once you've entered the elevator, the mission ends. That's it for the bonus missions. Another thing that they've changed is that they have extended the battery life for the flashlight. Here's an image for comparison. The door rework that was introduced in Extraction Point is still present in Perseus Mandate. The supply boxes also make a return. The turret sections that were present in F.E.A.R, but not in Extraction Point, returns once again in Perseus Mandate. The saving system is also the same as the previous titles, and the ability to customize your crosshair that was introduced in Extraction Point also returns.
Heavy armor! Fuck!
The difficulty levels in Perseus Mandate are the same as in F.E.A.R and Extraction Point. You have the same 4 difficulty levels: low, moderate, high, and extreme. The effects of each difficulty level is the same as in the previous titles. Even though the difficulty levels are the same, Perseus Mandate is even more difficult than Extraction Point. I died more times in Perseus Mandate than in F.E.A.R and Extraction Point combined. Particularly the battles against the Nightcrawler elites, which is by far the most difficult sections of the expansion if you don't have the right equipment. There is also one section where you're fighting against 2 Rev 6 power armors at the same time. The final boss battle can also be somewhat difficult. Just like in previous titles, I'd advise new players to play on either easy or moderate, learn every section, and then increase the difficulty. You eliminate most enemies using the same procedures as in the previous titles. The only difference is that the Nightcrawler elites can do a quick sidestepping motion during slow-mo, which makes them even more frustrating to fight. Other than that, it is business as usual. Perseus Mandate continues the level design established in Extraction Point, with more open and large maps. There is however way less verticality now. Visually, Perseus Mandate emulates F.E.A.R more than Extraction Point by going back to almost exclusively dimly lit and grey looking environments. In Extraction Point they at least tried to introduce more light and color, but that aspect has been completely dropped in Perseus Mandate, which sucks to see. The different types of environments that you'll see is sewers and a sewage treatment facility, city streets, the ATC Data and Security Center, some type of reactor core, courtyards, the ATC Bioresearch Center, the abandoned underground area, subways, train yards, a harbor, mines, the Perseus compound, and lastly, the surface area after the nuke. So as you can see, the environments are actually pretty diverse. They basically incorporated almost all of the environments that have been featured before in the previous titles. Extraction Point introduced 3D environmental destruction, which is expanded upon in Perseus' Mandate. It is not heavily used, and it is only used in specific combat sections on specific surfaces. You can do things such as shooting open pipes or blowing off concrete from the edges of walls. Other than everything that I've mentioned, Perseus' Mandate looks very similar to the other two titles. The audio is very similar to F.E.A.R. and Extraction Point. They've reused the sound effects for most of the things that return from the previous titles. There are new sound effects for the new weapons and the new enemies. Some of the music are reused ambient loops from the F.E.A.R. soundtrack, but there's also new music specifically for Perseus' Mandate. It is, however, either short new ambient loops or short new melodies. Once again, the soundtrack has been composed by Nathan Grigg. These are some of the highlights from the soundtrack. Unlike Extraction Point, where a lot of the dialogue was recycled, Perseus Mandate features more new dialogue. Off the top of my head, I couldn't remember any voice lines that were reused from either the previous titles or within the expansion itself. Just like usual, the dialogue is well written and recorded. Speaking of new dialogue, with the introduction of the Nightcrawlers, there is more new dialogue during combat. These are some examples of that.
Grenade! Grenade! Get down! Watch out, grenade! Look out, grenade! Sniper! We got a sniper! Where did that come from? It was over there. We have a situation. Turret! Destroy it! It's a turret. It's activating. It's on fire. Take it out. Take out that turret. That turret's active. Need reinforcements. We need reinforcements. Now! Where's my backup? Movement! There he is. Threat sighted. We've got company. Visual confirmed. Target acquired. Target in sight. Target spotted. Move! Move out. Split up. Spread out. Team, fan out. Team, spread out. What the? Where the hell is everyone? What in the fuck is that? What the hell is going on here? Keep your mouth shut. Shut the fuck up. Shut up. Shut your fucking mouth. Affirmative. Copy. Copy that. Copy. Got it. Got it. Got it. Thanks. Got you. Roger. Roger that. Roger. 5 o'clock. 4 o'clock. 9 o'clock. On your left. On your right. 1 o'clock. 7 o'clock. 6 o'clock. 10 o'clock. 3 o'clock. 2 o'clock. Watch your 6. He wiped out the whole squad. I got 3 men down. I've got 2 men down. I've got wounded. Man down. We have wounded. We lost a man. We've got a man down. We're taking casualties. We've lost a man.
As far as the audio goes, it is very similar to the previous titles.
Squad, regroup. Got it. 4 o'clock. Get down.
Just like with the previous titles, you need the DLL file from the direct input FPS fix, and you need to insert it into the install directory of the expansion. It is using the same engine as the previous titles, therefore it has the same problems. In F.E.A.R, there was a 1080p resolution option available by default. In Extraction Point there wasn't, and you had to edit a config file manually. Here in Perseus Mandate, the 1080p resolution option is available by default. Seems pretty weird to me that they haven't bothered to fix that for Extraction Point, and that it is so inconsistent between the titles. In Extraction Point I had the occasional FPS stutter here and there, and that returns in Perseus Mandate. It did however happen way less often. I also had the disconnected from server message while loading into a new mission, and I also experienced one hard crash. Overall F.E.A.R was very stable, Extraction Point was relatively unstable, and Perseus Mandate would fall in between. It is more unstable than F.E.A.R, but more stable than Extraction Point.
Take cover. Kill him with the sleep.
Perseus Mandate took me 5 hours to beat on the extreme difficulty setting. Just like with Extraction Point, you can't buy Perseus Mandate as a standalone product. It is bundled into the same package while buying the base game. It is available on Steam and Good Old Games. I'll lay out the positive, negative and neutral aspects of Perseus Mandate in comparison to F.E.A.R and Extraction Point. One positive aspect is the gameplay. The gameplay consists of good horror sections that are up to par with the ones in Extraction Point. There are new weapons introduced which makes it the best weapon variety across the 3 titles. The same thing applies to the enemy variety. You have new enemy types that are introduced, which also makes it the best variety across the 3 titles. They introduced the bonus missions, which to be honest are kinda lackluster, but I guess it's a nice addition to have rather than to not have them. Smaller things such as the extended battery life for the flashlight is also a good change. The return of the gameplay elements from Extraction Point, such as the door rework, the supply boxes, and the customizable crosshair is also nice. And lastly, the turret sections from F.E.A.R make a return. One neutral aspect is the story. There are things that I like, such as them tying the F.E.A.R and Extraction Point stories into the Perseus Mandate story. The dialogue is still good, and they recorded new dialogue instead of reusing a bunch of old dialogue like they did in Extraction Point. The pacing is also good. They finally introduce a new faction to change things up a bit. And the last part that I like is that you'll fight alongside a squad for some of the sections. Things that I don't like is the handling of some of the characters. Chan is a good character, but he's killed off way too early. Same thing goes for Morrison. The Nightcrawler commander is not satisfying as a villain. He's not properly fleshed out. The sergeant is also not fleshed out whatsoever and is almost a completely blank character. Reigns, Betters, Alma and Fettel are handled in a good way though. Another thing that I don't like is the return of the phone messages and the laptop data. Once again, I'm not a fan of that style of story delivery. They do, however, use them way less often than they did in F.E.A.R, which is a plus. And lastly, yet another cliffhanger ending. 3 out of 3 titles with cliffhanger endings. One negative aspect is the bugs and glitches. Once again, you need a direct input FPS fix to fix the engine's compatibility issues with modern systems. In Perseus Mandate you have the 1080p resolution available by default, which is odd to me that it's so inconsistent between the titles. You have the occasional FPS stutter here and there, you have the disconnected from server message in between missions, and the occasional hard crash. The second neutral aspect is the environments. The level design from Extraction Point returns with large and open levels. There is way less verticality though. In terms of lighting and color, it emulates F.E.A.R a lot with dimly lit and grey looking environments. A good aspect of this is that the environments that are depicted are very diverse. You'll also see a lot more 3D environmental destruction, which is cool. A third neutral aspect is the audio. The audio consists of a lot of reused music and sound effects. They do introduce new audio in the form of some new music and sound effects, but not a lot. The new dialogue that's introduced because of the Nightcrawlers is a nice addition, but just like with Extraction Point, it feels like a missed opportunity to introduce more new audio. In terms of a collective rating for F.E.A.R, Extraction Point and Perseus Mandate, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say that F.E.A.R and its expansions are like that weird kid that you used to hang out with in elementary school. As a naive child you never considered them to be weird, but looking back as an adult, you scratch your head thinking, what the hell was that? That was a pretty questionable individual or a series of questionable events that occurred, but yet at the same time you feel a sense of nostalgia. I don't know if that makes any sense and I don't care. This video is probably 4 hours long at this point and took a really long time to make. So if you're still watching, thank you and go fuck yourself.